This Yom, close the doors of your mind from all carnal will or carnal thought, your basar, your makashaba, your flesh, your carnal desires and wants. Close the doors of your mind from all stubbornness of your mind, of your thoughts, of your hands and your feet, of your inner man, of your heart, all stubbornness in your mind, in your corpus callosum, in your optic thalami, in your thalamus, in your hypothalamus. Close the doors of your mind from all stubbornness, in your shoulders, in your neck, in your lower back, in your hands and your feet, and bring your mind to balance within the center of your mind. And remember who you are. For is it not written in your Torah, in your law, and the things written that you are Elohim, that you are a God? And if he called you an Elohim in whom the word of Yahuwah came, then you can't change it. He said, I am Yahuwah, I change not. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to everyone on the earth, the grateful and the ungrateful, as a gift to have breath within oneself, that one may be able to attain the promise, the amar, the utterance, the debar within, that one can no longer live according to their natural man, but according to the inward man, according to the righteous, pure thoughts and the pure words that came down from the highest Shamayim to the earth, to water the earth, to plant seed in the earth, that it may yield an increase, even as water gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So will Yahuwah's debar rain on you as a waterfall that falls from the highest Shamayim to the earth. So this Yom, we acknowledge the one who made all of the har of the earth, all of the nahar of the earth, all the rivers, all the mountains, all the yam, all the oceans and the waters, the one who gives us the actual water so that we may have a sweet smelling incense to smell when we light and offer our sacrifices of praise and our sacrifices of confession and our sacrifices of humility in the most dire times in our lives, in the most stressful, uncomfortable times in our lives, that he may bring forth us out of it, that we may bring forth and come out as pure gold. So this Yom, we acknowledge the one. We acknowledge Akkad. We acknowledge his son, Yahushua Mashiach. And as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, simcha, shalom, patience, meekness, temperance, amuna, forgiveness, mercy, and most of all, ahab, which aligns everything in perfect harmony. I say in a perfect harmonic frequency, that we may resonate, and kum, and the frequency may rise within ourselves, within our mind, our frontal lobe, and our 12 cranial nerves, and our 12 melanin centers, that our mind may be fixed in our life, may be a reflection. Even as one looks in the reflection in the water in the rivers, you see reflection back of the one who made all things when someone looks at you as a witness. So this is Mashali Proverbs 8 through 11. It says, all the words of my mouth are righteous. Right? Everything that Yahuwah says are righteous, and there is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight, nakuwak, to him who understands, him or her, male and female, to whomever understands. They are all straight. It says, and right to those who find knowledge, those who seek and find, those who seek with love, and he will find it. Take my instructions instead of silver, and knowledge rather than gold. So understand in truth that that knowledge that one can speak, you have to desire more than silver and gold. You have to make, financial sacrifices in order to get these things, in order to understand it. It says, for wisdom is better than jewels. It's better than any type of stone jewel on the planet or in the rakia, in the expanse. And all that you may desire cannot compare with her. Anything you may desire cannot compare with wisdom. Why? Because when you look at wisdom, look at his actual understanding of all things, and when he created all things, we understand that when he formed everything, he formed it by wisdom, even the body that you dwell inside. So you already have it on the inside of you. Your kidneys, your 2 kidneys were made out of wisdom. Your liver was made out of wisdom. Your cranial nerves are made out of wisdom. Your feet and your hands were made out of wisdom. Your belly button, where your umbilical cord attached when you was in your mother's womb, was made out of wisdom. Right. So the word. Then when it says all the words, that word for words is amar, the utterance, the amar, the amer. It says the utterance, the speech, the word, the promise. Is righteous. His command is righteous. It's appointed unto you. His word that he speaks is appointed unto you today. So the word for crooked is ikesh. It means what? Distorted, false, crooked, forward, or perverse. All the words of Yahuwah's mouth, there is nothing that is forward. There is nothing that is false. There's nothing that is perverse or crooked. Nothing. The word for straight is nakuak. It's what? Straightforward. Equitable. So you look at not going to the right or the left. Right? You're not drifting to the right or the left. But he's saying going straight forward. Equitable. It's correct. It's integrity. It is uprightness. It is innocence. The debar is your innocence. The word, the debar, the utterance that comes from Yahuwah's mouth is straightforward, equitable, and it will bring value to you. It'll bring value to you, to your life, to your mind. So the first Enoch, Hanuk 101, Pseudepigrapha, the Old Testament, volume 1. Right? Examine the Shamayim, you sons of Shamayim. So we understand on a 364-day cycle, moving around in a spherical movement, we understand that everything that he created was in a motion that's conducive to growth. Right? He said, examine the Shamayim, you sons of Shamayim, and all the works of Yahuwah. So all the works of Yahuwah, what did Yahuwah create? He created the Shemesh in the yard, just move up. He created the animals, every herb-yielding seed. He created what? Trees created after his kind. He separated the waters from the waters, the Rakim. He created the sons of Shamayim. He created the host of the Shamayims. He created even the evil spirits. Matter of fact, he even created them from a resounding echo in Tartarus. Even all the way to the beginning, he even put light into the world, the orb. And by thought, he sent his son into the world. He did all that. Look at his works. He gave the spider, the ant, the fly, all these things, he gave them consciousness. Some of them, he gave them multiple eyes. He gave it all to us. He said, examine all the works of Yahuwah. And guess what? Be afraid to do evil in his presence. Why? Because he controls all matter, all time. He can put you in a small space. He can put you in a large space. He can put you in a small house. He can put you in a big house. He can put you in a river. He can put you under a tree. He said, you're afraid to do evil in his presence. If he closes the windows of Shamayim and hinders the rain and the dew from descending upon the earth because of you, what will you do? What will you do if he stopped the rain from falling? You won't have no food. You won't have no seed. You won't have no water to give your children. You have no water to give yourself. You will die of thirst. You will have no food for the winter. What will you do if he don't give no rain? Because as rain and snow, so does his word come down. As rain and snow. If you don't get it, then how are you going to grow? Right? He says, if he closes the windows of Shamayim and hinders the rain and the dew from descending upon the earth because of you, what will you do? Man, woman, child? Or if he sends his anger against you and your deeds, is it not you who will entreat him because of what you did? Because you utter bold and hard words against his righteousness, you shall have no shalom. So anytime you utter things against Yahuwah and the bar, just like any parent in the home, you ain't gonna have no peace, right? You ain't gonna give you no shalom. You ain't gonna have none. Because once you sow that seed in a person's mind and that thing grows, eventually it's gonna bear fruit. Especially if it's a bold heart, especially if it's something that, when it's something that you can't do. I can't forgive. I can't show compassion. I can't show mercy. I can't love my enemies. I can't be kind to those who despitefully use me and those who persecute me. I I have to slander. I have to show malice. I have to do these things. I have to. It's a craving, huh? And that's what happens. Now you uttering bold words against Yahuwah himself. Because when you do it to somebody else, he said, do unto others you have them do unto you. When you slander somebody else, just understand you slandering Yahuwah and his son Yahusha. And that's how you have to look at it. When you gossip about somebody else, just understand you gossiping about somebody else. You gossiping about Yahuwah and his son Yahusha. You speaking bold words against him, against his debar. Because he didn't make furious anger and envy and jealousy and all these things from man, humans, for Adam, his son. We talking about righteous. We talking about unrighteous envy and jealousy. But it says, right here, and it says, do you not see the sailors of the ship, how their ships are tossed up and down by the billows and are shaken by the winds, and they become anxious? On this account, it is evident that they are seized by fear, for they will discharge all their valuable property, the goods that are with them, into the sea. They think in their hearts that the sea will swallow them up, and they will perish in it. Just like you're in a ship, tossed to and fro. You're going into the sea, some of the roughest parts of the world, which they call some of the strait, like the Bering Strait, some of the roughest waters. When things getting ready, things are sinking, when things are crashing, just like you see the world today, the economy is crashing. You see the economy crashing, you see the industries crashing, you seeing the supply chain crashing, right? Everybody emptying out, taking their losses, exiting. And what are you doing? Right? When it says, guess what it says? Is not the entire sea and all her waters and all her movements the very work of Yahuwah? All of it is. Has he not ordered her course of action? And her waters indeed of totality with sand? At his rebuke, they become frightened and dry, and she dries up. That's what happens. When Yahuwah speaks a word, the ocean dries up. Then her fish die, and all that is in her. And that's what you see all around the world. When you look at the cycles and you look at the movement patterns, some would say 3,600 years, or even the movement patterns of the cycles of the cosmos. It's signifying what? It's signifying change. But you sinners who are upon the earth, fear him not. So you see the clock is ticking. As you see these things, all the events, fire, vapor of smoke, hurricanes, storms, fish dying, all these things that are taking place on the earth, the clock is ticking. It's signifying change. Did he not make the Shamayim in the earth and all that is in them? Did he not do that? Who gave knowledge of wisdom to all those who move upon the earth and in the sea? Do not the sailors of the ships fear the sea? Yet the sinners do not fear Yahuwah. They fear the sea, but you don't fear. This Bereshit 49:14. Yissachar is a strong donkey, Issachar, crouching between the sheepfolds. So you look at having a vineyard, look at having a garden or a field, and you have some animals and sheep in the field. Then you have a donkey in the middle of that field. He said it crouches in the middle of the sheepfold. Verse 8, he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. Why? Because when you're in the field, you have animals, you have sheep, you have goats, you have donkey, and they resting out there in the middle of the field. Why? Because they see that it's a good field. Strong animals want good pasture. How you say? Good pasture and green grass. So he bowed his shoulder to bear, right, and became a servant, a bard at forced labor. So you look at all these things that this strong donkey does. He said it became a servant and at forced labor. How you say? A slave. Because the reason why it became a forced slave or become a slave under forced labor, why? Because of the field that was there. Because of the field that was there. Right, but this is a strong donkey, and it sits right in the middle of the sheepfold too. A strong donkey, right? He said he had forced labor. So this is Yitzhakar means there is a recompense. That's what his name means, Yitzhakar. It means there is a recompense. It was the ninth son of Yaakov. We look at the ninth letter of the alphabet, you see what? The teeth. It means mud, clay, male and female. Right? He said, Yitzhakar, man, he said strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. In the middle of the sheepfold, it says the fifth by Leah, his first wife, right? Because he said the fifth son. When you look at the fifth letter of the alphabet, what you get? We got ha or hey, right? Behold, light revealed. Right in the middle of the sheepfold. He said he was a strong donkey right in the middle of the sheepfold. He was made in a forced labor, abad. Right? And also means he will reward. He will reward. Just like a donkey in the middle of the field, in the middle of the sheepfold, he will reward those. Why? Who have this type mindset? Can we look at the ninth letter of the alphabet, the teeth, the mud, clay, life, how you say it? Or you say the beginning, also means male and female. Who was male and female? Both male and female. He, them, right? He said, behold light. He said he will reward too. He said, but it means there is a recompense. Right? He said he's a strong donkey in the sheepfold. Right? The word for strong is Karem. It means bone, strength, bear. It also means skeleton. It means skeleton. It means bones, skeleton. He has some strong bones. That donkey has some strong bones. As a matter of fact, it was able to bear what? A lot. Because it has strong bones. Self, right? Bone, strength. It had a lot of strength in the middle of the sheepfold. But it said what? It's going to be for what? Forced labor. So this is, but for donkey is kamor. It means strengthen. It's a male donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. He was a strong male donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. Matter of fact, Yitzhakar was the ninth son of Yaakov. Both male and female, right there in the middle of the sheepfold. Right? He donkey. Right? So the word for forced labor is mas. Mas. The word for forced labor is mas. It means gang. Yeah, he said forced labor. It was a body of forced laborers. Forced laborers. It says forced service, task workers, labor gang overseers, a burden. So he gonna be under. He said he gonna be a servant under burden, forced labor. Why? And then it says right here, it's gonna be a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold, about the ninth son of Yaakov, Yitzhakar, taskmaster, forced service, labor band. Like they say. So this is Dabri Hayamim, 1 Chronicles 12:32. Of Yitzhakar, men who had understanding of the times, They had understanding of times. To know what Yasharal ought to do. They knew what they were supposed to do. It says 200 chief and all their kinsmen under their command, right? So they understood times. He said Yitzhakar was a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. He was a nice son from Yaakov, which was male and female, also in the ninth letter of the alphabet. But also was the fifth son of Leah, which was what? Well, we say he came from the fifth son of Leah, which was what? Light revealed. When you look at the alphabet, but when we look at this thing and look at it in its true form, right? The word for time is Aydah. The word for time is Aydah. It means time, evening, season, right? What season are we in now? Summertime, summer, appointed time. So they understood all the appointed times, the seasons, right? Continually, right? It also means continually. Aydah. It means time. They understood the times, right? Just like Shaul, just like Shaul said, what? And knowing the time, it's high time for you to wake out of sleep. For your Yasha is near when you first believed. Like you first believed it, it's a little bit closer now. In their season, right? In their time. Why? Because Yitzhakar was a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. He found good pasture, and he was strong. He had strong bones too, and he was bare. He was a mas. He was going to bear. He was going to put on a burden, and he's going to be an abad. He's going to be a servant. but he's going to be a burden. He's going to bear a burden. So Nazarene actually the Shalakim, advantages of knowledge. So we must above all things hasten to the knowledge of truth, that as with a light kindled thereat, we may be able to dispel the darkness of errors, right? So every person, he said, just like it says, no weapon that's formed against me shall prosper. Every tongue that rises up against me in judgment I shall condemn. For this is the heritage of the Kadashim, of his servants. Why? We may ride upon the high places, upon the wings of the wind. He may feed us with our akla, our food. It says the darkness of errors, for ignorance, as we have said, is a great evil. So people saying, oh, you're ignorant. Yeah, you're just ignorant. It's a great evil. But because it has no substance, it is easily dispelled by those who are earnest. Easily. For ignorance is nothing else than not knowing what is good, because most people don't know what's good. They don't even know what's ta'ud. They don't know what's good. They don't know that slander, malice, hatred, jealousy, envy, strife, conceitedness, rivalries, dissension, all these works of the flesh. They don't know that it's evil. They think it's good because everybody, how you saying, all of the people in times past, the teachers of this age, the pastors of this age, the ra'as of this age have promoted this throughout, and they actually made it look good. They made gangrene look good. They made disease look good. They made disease look good, and he said people they mask these things on top of it. Disease, it's not a good disease. It says, for ignorance is nothing else than not knowing what is good. Once know, this ignorance perishes. So when you ignorant, once you know something, then the ignorance is gone. Therefore, the knowledge of the truth ought to be eagerly sought after, and no one can confer it except the Nabi Amat. I say Nabi Amat, for this is the gate of life to those who enter in the road of good works to the city of salvation. Just like the Aramaic Targums, if one ever reads these books outside of the books that you've been programmed to read, because the Aramaic Targum said, didn't he put his Ruach in you to do good works? Didn't he put his Ruach HaKadosh in you to do good works? Or have you received the Ruach since you believed? Right, in Bereshith of the Aramaic Targums. Right? So Wisdom of Solomon 8:8, hear the word of truth and receive the knowledge of Yahuwah. Your flesh may not understand what I'm about to say to you. So look at our carnal selves, look at our carnal people, we look in the mirror, right? We look at ourselves on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We look at ourselves in selfie shots and everything that we do. He said, your flesh may not understand what I'm about to say to you, nor your garments, that which I'm about to declare to you. So we look at the things we wear on a day-to-day basis. They shouldn't understand anything. They can't hear, speak, or talk. Right? Keep my mystery, you who are kept by it. Keep my Amunah, you who are kept by it, by Amunah, by faith. Amunah comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Mashiach. Because it's Yahuwah, the Mashiach, the Ish, the Isha, Yalit, Malaki. They are the servants. And everybody does what Yahushua tells them to do. But it says what? Keep my Amunah, you who are kept by it, and understand my knowledge, you who know me in truth. You know him in truth. Love me with affection, you who love. You want to be like Timothy, or when they wrote, he said what? It's going to be the last days, it's going to be perilous times. He said men are going to be loving themselves rather than lovers of Yahuwah. Right? They're going to have no natural affection. Verse 12 says, for I turn not my face from my own, I know them. Right? Because he said, I'm not going to turn his face on them because I know you. He said, before they had existed, I recognized them and imprinted a seal on their faces. He's talking about a seal on their frontal lobe, in their mind. Having this seal, Yahuwah knows them that are his. He said, write them on the frontlets between your eyes. He says, I fashioned their members in my own breast. I prepared for them that they might drink my Kudash milk and live by it. I am pleased by them and am not ashamed by them, for they are the work and the power of my thoughts. So you look at the power of Yahuwah's thoughts and look at how you got here and how he created you. You are the power of his thoughts, wherever you may be, throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? We can say outside of the earth's atmosphere, they're already building space stations and space cities and people that's going to live out in the Rakia. They're already building these things. Yahuwah said, if he scatter you to the uttermost parts of the Shamayim, to the Rakia, Guess what he said? There, I will come and get you. Right? They already have space nations and space-based weapons and space-based. And he said that what they call space is not space. It's things. It's actually beings and things in space, right? But it's the rakia, the expanse, right? Space nations, right? The wisdom of Solomon, Kukumashis Luma, 6:12-25. Wisdom is glorious and never fadeth away. Shamayim, he said, the earth will pass away, but my word will never pass away. Yea, she is easily seen of those who love her. So anything, the words that are spoken that are not crooked, forward, or perverse, is easily seen by those who love. Love with natural affection. And found her such as seek her. She preventeth them that desire her, and making herself first known unto them. It ain't going to be easy. I run 2 laps around the track, 2 laps around, and what happens? You get tired. You quit in your mind. Your mind faints. You can't go on. You get weary. You feel like you're going to die. Feel like something's going to happen to you. You feel like you're injured. Your back hurts. Your lower back hurts. Your legs hurt. Your calves hurt. But you still got 2 more laps. What, you going to stop? You going to stop running? He said, man, you will never get wisdom. Because wisdom is something you have to seek after, like with relentlessness, without stopping, no matter how much pain you have. It says, whoso seeketh her early shall have no great travail, for he shall find her sitting at his door. So you seek her early. He says, Kayu, a virtuous woman, she rises early. Right? Why? Because it's important to rise early. Even Yahushua Mashiach, even walking on the sea, on the 4th watch of the night, before the sunrise, he said, you got to get up early. Ruach Marakav al-Panim, right? Early. It says what? Verse 15 says, to think thereupon her is perfection of wisdom, to think on her, to makashaba. Because that's the only way you're going to perfect something. You got to continually think on it. How are you going to perfect the thought, perfect the behavior, perfect an understanding? How are you going to perfect knowledge, bina kukma da'a, in your mind? How are you going to perfect the building and construction of you, your body, your temple? How are your rivers going to flow throughout your body, in your veins, in your capillaries, and your axons and your dendrites, your sensory neurons, and your quarks and your molecules? How? In order to perfect it, you got to continually think on it. It says, and whoso watcheth for her shall quickly be without care. For she goeth about seeking such that are worthy of her. Like, even as Yahushua came from the highest Shamayim to come in his vineyard, to see if the pomegranates and the grapes have bloomed. He came down to the earth to see. Right? Because he was coming to seek those who are worthy. He was coming to seek those who are worthy, who are bearing the fruit. He said, whoso love father and mother or son and daughter more than me is not worthy of me. He said, you're not even worthy. Right? And people don't even understand why he said that. They just make up things. They don't even know. It says, showeth herself favorably unto them in the ways, and meeteth them in every thought. In every single thought, in your 12 cranial nerves, in your 12 melanin centers, in your corpus callosum, in your hypothalamus, in your pituitary pineal gland, in your medulla. It meets me every thought. Your optic thalamus, your corpus callosum, your left and right brain, in your frontal lobe. You meet them in every thought, in every single thinking pattern, in your mind, in your microprocessor, in your quantum world, in the center of your mind. It'll meet you in every thought. Outside, inside, outside of the garden. Inside the garden. He'll meet you in every thought. Because wisdom even made the things outside the garden too. So this is Psalms 51:10. Oh, come, children, listen to me, and I will teach you the fear of Yahuwah, the Aydah Yahuwah. What man is there who desires life and love many days that he may see good? What man or woman who desires and love life and see good days? What man or woman? Keep your tongue from evil. Keep your tongue. How you speak with your mouth. Your thoughts have to say. Your thoughts have to think. The power of your thoughts have to manifest, and you have to speak with your mouth. Your lips from speaking deceit. For greed. Speaking deceit. You trained in greed, speaking deceit. Eyes who cannot, men and women who cannot even cease from sin. You're in greed. You're deceit. He said, turn away from Ra and do good. And then he put his ruach in you to do good works. And seek shalom and pursue it. Seek peace. Shalom. The eyes of Yahuwah are toward the righteous. Those who are the wise, the sons of Yahuwah. Examine the Shamayim. Those who are wise, that know wisdom will never fade away. Those that are wise, they know he gave the Kudash milk. Those who may live by it. Those who are wise and know that they seek it with care and love. He said, the eyes of Yahuwah are toward the righteous, and the ears are open to their cry, just like a child. If you can't humble yourself like a child, you will never enter the Malkuth. The face of Yahuwah is against those who do evil. Man, he against you. Just like your parents. Your parents give you that mean look. Your mother give you that mean look. Right? You do evil in the house, they give you that mean look. Right? The husband give you that mean look. For the husband, you do evil to your wife, they give you that mean look. He said, man, my face is against you. Child, you see your mother, you do something evil, they give you that mean look. Your father, they give you that mean look that you know you scared. Like, what did I do? Amazingly, we see this naturally, but we can't see our father in the same way. Our father and mother in the highest Shamayim. But he said, the face of Yahuwah is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. He's like, man, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to do something to you. I'm going to cut the memory off of you from the earth. The same way when you look at it in a relationship, when you do evil or raw to your husband or you do it to your wife or your children, they be like, I'm going to cut you out of my mind. You ain't my father. You ain't my mother. You ain't my wife. You ain't my husband. It's the same way. You do evil, you do raw, that's what happens. And people wonder where you get this attribute from, where you get this thought process from. A teacher do you wrong, hey, you be like, man, guess what? I'm going to cut you out of my memory. A teacher, an evangelist, a prophet, and anybody who do wrong, he's like, I'm going to cut you out of my mind. You do evil to me. He said, I'm against you. Right? This is Tahalim, Psalms 111 and 2. Great are the works of Yahuwah, studied by all who delight in them. You look at all the things that we do, those who delight in it. Like Yahuwah forgives sins, transgression, and iniquities, but he don't clear no guilty. That's why he said, if you do raw, he said, I'm going to cut you out of my memory. Just like he did in Bereshit. Every imagination and thought was evil continually. So therefore, I'm going to remove man by my word from the earth. Right? It says, great are the works of Yahuwah, studied by all who delight in him, full of splendor and majesty. Like we look at that majesty. When the king walks in the room, when a malak walks in the kingdom, he's sitting on his throne. Don't nobody come to him any type of way. Don't nobody, no man, no woman, no child. You don't come to him any type of way. When Yahushua came into the city and he was riding on the Kamor, they put palm branches on the ground and they said, Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah, right? Baruch is he who comes in the name of Yahuwah. Right? And people act like a king don't deserve flowers. But in actuality, you look at Yahushua Mashiach as your king, right? But we'll see. And his righteousness endures forever, right? Full of splendor and majesty, right? So we know that word for studied is darash, right? Yahuwah darash, right? So the word for darash means what? Seek with care. We always start here. Why? You got to resort to frequent a place, right? Just like a frequent place. The same way when Yahushua Mashiach, what did he do? And where he frequently would go to the garden, he always went to the garden with his disciples or to the mountain. It's to seek. It says a deity in prayer and worship, to practice, to study, to follow. To practice, to study, to follow. Like people may say they practice, people may say they follow, but they don't study. And then guess what happens when you don't study? You have ignorance and you have darkness of errors and you cause other people to err. It says seek with application. Seek with application. That means you got to do something. As soon as you seek it, you find it, you got to do it. Seek with care, right? It means what? Tread and frequent to worship. Seek with application. How many seek with application? You seek with love. You follow, you practice, but you don't study. You follow, you practice, but you don't worship. You don't sing. You have no fruit of the lips. You don't forgive. You don't show mercy. You don't show, but you like to gossip and slander. You like to spread rumors because I want to be more righteous than the other person. So I'm going to spread a rumor about that person so I can feel more righteous within. That's called feign a love, fake. I mean, you're lying to yourself. Because surely, just like the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, Dabarim says, it ain't because of your righteousness that I brought you out. So please don't be thinking like, oh, I want to be more righteous. I'm gonna spread some gossip and slander about this person, make him look like he's not who he is so that I can be more righteous than him. But in actuality, it ain't because of your righteousness that he even brought you out. It's because the other people more wickeder than you. This is Yeshayahu 6:61. Thus says Yahuwah, Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool. What house by east that you would build for me? So what house are you going to build? You got all the tools. You got the debar, you got the word, there's so much information out here in the debar, so many words. You got the Hebrew to Greek to Latin. You got Abri to Latin, Abri to Greek. You got all the translations, majority of them. Says you got $50 million to get that one book they got. They probably got all the Nabi in there that they took out. But you got all this information. He said, what house? You got all the plans. You got all the house plans, the blueprints. You got the behaviors. Because love going to win. Regardless of what any human may say. I don't care who they are on the planet. Ahab, Ahaba, Fikri, Amor, Ahambu. It's going to win. It's going to win. Libe. It's going to win. The love of Yahuwah is going to win. Right? He said, thus says Yahuwah, Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me? And where is the place of my rest? That's what we are. We are entering into his rest right now. This is a day of rest. A day where we shabat, we cease. This is a day of rest. Where's the place of his rest? He's looking for a house to dwell in, inside of you. Behold, he stands at the door and knock. Any man open the door, any man, woman, or child who opens that door, he will gonna come inside of you. He says, all these things my hands have made. You ain't make it. So it says, and so all these things came to be, declares Yahuwah. But this is the one to whom I will look. So you want Yahuwah to look to you? To the one to whom I will look. He who is humble and contrite in Ruach and trembles at my debar. You know, I heard a wise man say he's not trying to change your situation, he's trying to change you. I heard a wise man say that ignorance is evil. Ignorance is very expensive in my life. Right? When you start looking at your life, you start looking at your lifestyle and how you conduct yourself in this life. How are you living? But he says he's going to look to this person. He who is of a humble and contrite in Ruach and trembles at his debar. That's who he's going to look to. He ain't looking at, so if you think he's looking for somebody opposite of that, then you saying that Yeshayahu or Isaiah 66, you saying that he was a liar. Because that's who he's looking to. He ain't looking at all these other people. He's looking for this type person. So the word for debar, of course, you know the word is debar. It means the word, speech, utterance. Who trembles at his utterance when he speaks. Just like we talked about Amar. All his words of his mouth are righteous and nothing twisted, forward, or perverse, or crooked. A word, a matter, a thing. Commune, disease, judgment, language, promise. Debar. Right, you look at these truths in your life. The debar, do you tremble at his word, just like a mother and father. When we look at debar, you look at Daleth Bith Rosh, right? Because we know that Daleth is 4, Bith is 200, which is 8. We know that 8 is very significant. Circumcision, right? Whatsoever true, just, pure, lovely. If there be any virtue, any praise, all these things, think on these things. That's 8. right? You look at your mindset. When you look at Yahuwah, Yad Ha'u'ah, which is an 8, which is a 26. Right? You see 26 in the world and 8 in the world, they're not using it for the purpose that I'm using it for. They're not using it for the same purposes, right? But when you add up, 8 plus 8 equals to 16, which equals to what? 1 plus 6 equals to what? Equals to 7. To this person, when I look, the him was of a contrite, humble ruach, who trembles at his debar. Why? What today is? The day where you cease, the 7th day. It's the 7th day, right? So when we look at the Aleph, of course we know we always look at the Aleph. We look at all the things from the Aleph to the Tut, or the Aleph to the Tav, right? Right, or the Aleph to the Tav, right? And you have what 1 through 400. You got the it's like the Keth, the Kath, right? It's wall, fence, separation, but it also means ladder. It means ascending and descending. It means ascension, right? You got the Lamed. It means shepherd, staff, teach, expert, guide. It also means guide. It also means to lead about. Right? You look at the Ayin. Right? It means watch, experience, see. It means sight, illumination. Right? All these are all a part of the Aleph or Nun. Right? You got the Nun, you got seed. Right? So this is testament of Yitzhakar chapter 2. It says, "Know ye therefore, my children, that in the last times your sons will forsake singleness." Are we talking about being single? They're going to forsake singleness and will cleave unto insatiable desires. That's people who don't have enough. Insatiable. It means they don't have it. They can't have enough. They can't have no self-control. Insatiable desires. It says, "And leaving guilelessness, we will draw near to malice. And forsaking the commandments of Yahuwah, and to cleave unto Bailar." You know what malice is? Malice is the intent to do evil. They're going to draw near to the intent to do evil and forsake the commandments of Yahuwah and will cleave to Bailar. It's in the last times. And guess where we are? We're in the last times. And guess what it says? In leaving husbandry, they're going to leave farming. It says they're going to leave farming and they will follow after their own wicked devices. Remember, every imagination and thought was evil continually in Bereshith. What did they do? He said every thought and device in their Makashaba was evil, Ra, continually. It was evil. He said, this is what I know. He looked for one man, I found one, but for a woman, I found none. But this, what I found, saith the preacher, or he said the Qahalath, that Yahuwah made man in his image. He said, Yahuwah made man upright, but man sought out many devices. In the book of Ecclesiastes. He says, and they shall be dispersed among the Gentiles. We dispersed among the Goyim because you left farming and you went after your own devices and you had malice and you drawed near to it and you forsook the commandments, and then you're in exile because you left farming. And farming is very, very important. It's very, very important. Because when you leave farming, you literally distort everything he did from the beginning. You distort it. If you ain't excited about farming, you are not in the love of Yahuwah. If you're not even excited about planting your seed, you're not even in the love of Yahuwah. If you're not even excited about harvesting, you're not in the love of Yahuwah. He said, why? Because these are the things he gave. He said they left off farming, and guess what? He said, and they shall be dispersed among the Goyim and shall serve their enemies. So if you don't want to do it, he's saying, you know what? I'll make you serve somebody else. The word for husbandry means what? A cultivation or production of plants and animals. Agriculture. It's the management of a branch of farming, especially domestic animals. He said they left off that. They left from that. You know what they say? We don't want to do it. So you know what I'm going to do? He said, I'm going to put you in the exile and I'm going to make you serve your enemies. So you don't want to do this abad or this servitude. So therefore, I'm going to put you back as a slave. So there's no need to complain when you're a slave because you just didn't want to do farming. You left off husbandry. So you got Bereshith 126. Then Elohim said, let us make Adam in our Salim, after our Damuth, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the Shamayim, and over all livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. That is singleness. How you say? Singleness of heart. So Yahuwah created Adam in his own image. This is how he made him. In the image of Yahuwah, he created him. Male, Zakar, and female, Nakabah, he created them. He made them that way. He made them, right? You say, Wa'amar Elohim. And you go over here, Hadam, right? Basalim Damuz, right? Bara, and you have Zakar, Nakubah. We talked about this. 3 times a year shall your men appear before Yahuwah. Or you say that Zakur for that male. With the Wu in the middle, what? We talked about being joined to. Both male and female shall appear before him. Both male and female with the Wu in the middle. But he said in the last day, they're going to leave off farming. Forget about the authority, dominion of the fish of the sea or the birds of Shamayim, livestock over all the earth. Man, forget about every creeping thing, the animal, insects. Insects need food too. He's like, man, forget about that. Right? Ain't no male, no female. It's all women now. Women are in control of everything, right? It's all women. You don't need no man. But in actuality, oh man, you don't need no woman. That's absolutely, when you say these things to your mind, you're not in love with Yahuwah. You literally destroy everything. So, the word for male is zakar, because we know it means remember, but it means remembered. It also means child. Male, child, man, male. Anything Yahuwah has made, you're his child. Animals, male animal, male animal. Remembered. I'm telling you, get one male to remember husbandry, because he said in the last days, you're going to forsake it. You're going to forsake farming. You're going to forsake harvesting and planting. You're going to forsake taking care of animals. And by doing it naturally, you don't know how to do it spiritually. You don't even know how to take care of it. So the word for female is nakabah, right? Nakabah, right? It means female. Female child. Female animal. Male, child, female. It's like we talked about before. Yahushua said, if you can't humble yourself like a child, look at this child. He said, suffer the children to come to me, for such is the Malkut. He said, if you can't become like this little child, you won't be able to enter the Malkut. You can't even enter in. You can't even come in. You can't come in with seraphim with 6 wings and six wings. You can't come in with Malachim with 4 faces. You can't even come in inside a place like that with a Malachim swinging a sword left to the right. You can't even come in to see all the light and all of the unseen beings that you can't even see with your natural sight. He said you can't even enter into that type of world where love and compassion and you don't even need the sun, Shemesh, Kukurim, in the yard. So the word for his image is damuth, is similitude. It's damuth. It's similitude, likeness, model, shape, resemblance. You're supposed to resemble him. That's how you know. When you have that type of care and compassion for all the things he created and the love, then you in his model and shape. You're in his resemblance, in his fashion. You've shaped yourself like that. You've now become a figurehead in the earth. Right? Salim is what? The word for image and likeness, the likeness or image is salim, right? Resemblance, his image and likeness, right? A representative, a figure. You're a figurehead. And you can also be an idol because you can worship idols. Just like you got people, the gods, the other gods are exalting themselves and making statues of themselves, Right? They're getting ready to exalt themselves above the earth. And not throughout the Rakia and the cosmos. And everybody revealing who they really are. Right? Call on your God whom you serve, right? Everybody has an Elohim now. But to serve the one in the highest Shamayim requires some things. The word for man is Adam. It says man, mankind, human being. This is how he made man. He made Adam this way. Male and female. Not male, not Steve and Jerry. Right? Not Steve and Jerry. Right? Not Steve and Jerry. Right? Not Nicole and Taquita. Right? He made man Adam Zakar Nakabah. Right? When you look at all these aspects of himself, he made man male and female. Male and female supposed to be together, right? Human being. Right? You look at Adam, you got Aleph, Daleth, Meme. 1, 4, and 40. 1, 4, and 4 plus 0 equals 9. Right? When you look at 9, when Yahushua cried out the 9th hour, he gave the Ruach. People saying why he had to bear all the sins of man. Just like you see today. So it continued on, Bereshit 2, 1 through 9. It says, when no bush was on the field, was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahuwah Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the land. And there was no man to work the ground, and a mist was going up from the land and was watering the whole face of the ground. So he said, if I don't, just like we read in Enoch, if he doesn't cause it to rain or the dew to come because of your deeds, what will you do? Will you not entreat him? You know, when people do it, they say, nah, I'll just be lazy. I ain't gonna do nothing. You know, forget it. He says, then Yahuwah Elohim formed man from the dust of the ground and then breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Right? How you say breathe or nafak off. And I ain't talking about, we ain't using no nafak off. Right? Neshama kai. Right? The breath of life. And the man became a living creature. And Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden in Eden. He planted a garden. I'm going to give man authority to fish the sea, fowls, every creeping thing, and everything that creeps on the earth. I'm going to do these things. I'm telling him what I'm going to do, and I'm going to plant a garden for my child, male and female, right? In the east. He put it in the east. And there he put the man whom he had formed. He put him in the east. Out of the ground, Yahuwah Elohim made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. Every tree, 8, right? And the tree of life, which is in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So he put a garden he put a garden. How you say he planted a garden, he put trees in there, and he had another tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So when you look at Yitzhakar, he said he was a strong sheep, a strong donkey with some real strong bones in the middle of the sheepfold. And he was made to be a servant and he's going to bear a burden. How you say forced labor. So the word for garden is gone. We ain't talking about no gun. We talking about gone. But it is protection. But it says garden. Enclosed garden. That means like fenced. A garden. Even as the mountains surround Jerusalem, as Dawood wrote in Tehillim 125, even Yahuwah surround his people. Right, so we look at garden, and we add up Gan, we got Gamon Nun equals to 53, which is the 8. Same thing as the bar in Yahuwah. Circumcision. Same thing. Garden. Right? It means plants, right? Because that's what you do in the Gan, you plant. Right? The word for planted in there is natah. Natah. It means to plant, to fasten, to fix. When you plant a tree, you fix the roots inside of the ground. You fix it. And the energy from the center of the earth, from the inside of the earth, gives it energy and life through the soil and allows it to spring forth. Same way you have things that grow on the outside of your body. Your fingernails grow, your hairs grow, the hairs in your arm grow because of your inward man makes the outward man grow. You want your hair to be black like a raven? Then you have to put things in your body that's going to make your hair grow that way. Because when you put living things in your body, when you become alive and living water and things you put in your body, the outward man becomes what you put in. Whatever you put in. It says to strike, to plant, fastened, to plant. So when you add up natah, you got the noon, the teeth, and the ayin. which is 50, 9, and 70, which equals to 12, right? Equals to 12. He planted in the garden. He planted Natah, he planted them in the garden. 12. He said, man, I saw a tree in the midst of the garden. He said, I saw a tree. It had 12 manners of fruit on it. It was planted. And it was by a stream of living water, and it was clear as crystal. So the word for east is Karem. Karem, east. It means front. Front, from the front end or the east. It says also means ancient times, aforetime. It means aforetime. Right? It means all these things. It means aforetime. It means the beginning. Right? We look at, he said, stand ye in the ways and see. In Jeremiah 6:16, ask for the ancient way, which is the good way. And when you find it, you'll find rest for your soul. He planted a gun, a Natah in the east. Ancient, eastward, forward, or old, front, antiquity. In the earliest time. What's more earliest than that? Ancient. He said, remove not the ancient landmark. Bereshit 2, 15 through 7. And Yahuwah took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And Yahuwah commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Right? That's the day you eat of it. Notice in the garden there are trees, people. In the garden you plant trees. Eights. And Yahuwah planted that tree. The same way you see him planting a tree, you see the way male and female need to plant trees. They need to plant a garden. Right? And they need to be, the word for work it and keep it is abad and shamar. They need to abad, be a servant in the garden. They say it's a car like a strong donkey. It was a strong bone donkey, a kamor, in the middle of the sheepfold. And a matter of fact, it said he was abad and he was forced to bear a burden. Shamar. Right? He was observing the commandments of it. And it says what? And he commanded the man, saying, surely you shall eat from every tree of the garden. So that's what you're supposed to be eating. But he said, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. Neither shall you, he says, not eat it. For in the day that you eat it, you shall surely die. So you look at everything that Adam was supposed to eat was fruit. Fruit. The leaves were for your healing of your body. The fruit was for your food. The fruit is your food. The herbs are for your healing. The fruit is for your food. So the word for work it is abad. It means to serve. It means to serve, to labor, to work, to serve. To make oneself a servant. To compel a labor of work, to enslave. What do you mean enslave? That's like forced labor, right? He's saying to be a willing servant. He said, I'm a willing servant. I do this thing willingly, I have a reward, right? To serve, to work, to serve. To enslave, to become a servant. So the word for keep it is shamar, to keep it, to guard, to observe, to give heed, to watch, to be a watchman. Keep that in mind. To preserve, to protect, to keep. You're supposed to be in the garden. You're supposed to be in the garden, both male and female, right? So this Bereshit 1:28 through 31. And Elohim, all Yahuwah, barak them. And Yahuwah said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the shamayim, and over everything that moves upon the earth. And Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, I have given every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. So what are you eating? You're a servant in the gun. What are you eating? I follow Yahushua Mashiach. What are you eating? He says, and every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the shamayim, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has breath of life. We talking about on the earth. We ain't talking about in the sea. Where you live at, you live on the earth. You live on ground. We ain't talking about in the water. It's a whole nother different law for them. He says, I have given every green plant for food. So anything walking on the earth, they supposed to be eating herbs and fruits and things that you make. The things that grow from the earth. And it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, shishiyum. So he said it was very good, or meo tau, or muy bien, right? It was meo tau. So the word for fruitful is what? Parah, to bear fruit, to be fruitful, to bear fruit. He told him to be fruitful and multiply. The word for multiply is rabah, to become great, to become many. You got to be fruitful and multiply, become much, become numerous. A numerous amount of people will be coming with higher consciousness frequency than now return back to a mindset. It says increase greatly, exceedingly, great and large, do much, increase. You got to increase. Right? To word for fill is what? Malay. To be full. Fullness. Abundance. Malay rabah. I want you to malay rabah in the earth. Right? To fill the earth. The word for plants is esheb. The green plants. Glisten. Right? Green plants. You see them all on the ground. If you get lost in the forest and you don't know what to do, just watch the animals. They'll show you how to live. They've been living there longer than you have. They'll teach you too. They'll tell you that the hand of Yahuwah made all these things that Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12 tells you. This is word for seed is zarah, right? Every herb yielding seed is going to be for food, right? So look at that word for zarah. It means fruit. Fruit, plant, right? Fruit, posterity. Producing, yielding seed, to be sown, to become pregnant, to be made pregnant. To be made pregnant, yielding seed, to produce seed. Two becoming one, a male and female creates a child. Creates a child, just like the soil takes in seed. They call it what? Mother Earth. They call it the earth is alive. It is a living organism. It is a living organism, right? So the word for food, it say meat. We ain't talking about meat from the meat rack. We ain't talking about chicken and steak dinner. We ain't talking about shrimp and lobster. We ain't talking about eating the animals and the creatures of the earth. We're talking about plants and fruit, food, consuming wild beasts, right? We ain't talking about buy wild beasts, right? They talking about animals eat plants too. Consume, devour, eat. That is meat, right? They have plants called Nepalis. It has more protein than the steak dinner, right? You have other plants and fruits that have more protein than meat. But it says food for eating, food, devour, consuming. That's what it's for, akla, right? Bereshit 9:18 through 20. It says the sons of Nuach who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Yafeth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Nuach, and from these the people of the whole earth were dispersed. It says Nuach began to be a man of the soil of the Adamah, that word for soil of the Adamah, and planted a vineyard. He planted a vineyard. That same word for planted is natah. That same thing that Yahuwah did. He said he planted a garden and put Adam in the garden. Nuach was a teacher of righteousness, and he planted a garden for Adam to dwell in. He didn't forsake husbandry. Like Issachar said, in the last days, this man going to forsake husbandry. They're going to keep the malice and forsake the commandments of Yahuwah, even the ones from Bereshit beginning. That same word is natah, to plant. The word for vineyard is Karem. It means a vineyard, right? A vintage, right? A garden, vines. You add up Karem is Kaf, Rosh, Mim. 20, 240. We use a 260, we use the 8. Same thing as the garden, same thing as the bar, same thing as Yahuwah. Same thing as the vineyard. And guess what happens? Now you're in Yahuwah's image, in likeness. Because you have the bar on the inside, you have Yahuwah on the inside, you have his son, Yahusha, you have the vineyard, and you have the garden mindset. Like I said, if you ain't excited about plants and animals and creatures and the earth and the environment and harvesting and planting and taking care of the creatures and the animals, if you ain't excited about it naturally, how are you gonna be excited about it spiritually? Because that's the things that's how lifestyles create good servants. It creates good servants because it's not taking care of animals, trees, plants, and animals, and all these things are not for lazy people. It's not for lazy people. It's not. The Malkuth, the kingdom, is not for lazy people. It ain't. So Shir HaShirim, Song of Solomon 8 and 11, says Shalomah had a vineyard in Bahamon, and he let out the vineyard, Karem, to keepers. Each one was to bring forth its fruits, 1,000 pieces of silver. Think about what he put Adam in the garden. He planted a gun, and he put Adam to be an abiding servant in the garden. He wanted to be abiding Shamar. He said, Shalomah planted the vineyard. Nuach planted the vineyard. He said, my vineyard is my very own, is before me. Before me, O Shalomah, may have the 1,000 and the keepers of the fruit 200. Says, he who dwells in the gardens with my companions listening to your voice, let me hear it. She makes haste, my beloved, and like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices, just like animals in the garden. Just like animals in the garden. Because that's what he gave Adam, authority of dominion and authority over the fish of the sea, fowls of the air, every creeping thing, and over all the earth and the cattle. He gave him every plant yielding seeds for food. He did all these things. He gave it to Adam. He said, I want you to work it and keep it. Abad and Shamar, the commandments in the garden. Proverbs 31, 10 through 18. An excellent wife who can find? Because he said it was both male and female. When Adam was formed, he formed Adam from the dust of the ground. He said he brought all the animals to see what he would call them. He said there was not found a helpmeet that was fit for him. That was not fit for him. And he caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he took it from one of his ribs. Some writing said the 13th rib. And he made him into an Inashah. He said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. Man, he was like a strong donkey in the sheepfold. Man, he had some strong bones. He was in the middle of the sheepfold. Matter of fact, he was made an abad, a servant. And he was made under forced labor. How you say? Mas. A laboring band of people in the garden. But you see forced labor versus people who didn't. Because when you start forsaking the things that you're supposed to do, it now becomes forced labor. Because somebody's forcing you to do it. Right, so here we go. It says, an excellent wife who can find? She is more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband does trust in her, and he will have no lack of gain. Why would he not? They're gonna be fruitful and multiply. Malay Rabah. He said that was not found somebody who got the garden mind, the gun mind. Says she does him good and do no harm all the days of her life. He said, don't he put the Kudash Ruach in you to do good works? He put the Ruach in you to do good. He says, hearken unto me, children, and I will teach you the fear of Yahuwah. Keep your mouth from doing deceit. Keep your mouth from speaking ra and do good and flee from evil. Guess what it says? She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. Like I told you, this walk, how you say, this truth is not for lazy people. She is like a ship of merchants. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. Where is she going to get the food from? Let's see. And the portions for her maidens. She considers a field, She considers a field and buys it. Land and buys it. With the fruit, the pari of her hands, she plants. That same word that Nuach, when he said he planted, and Yahuwah said he planted a garden, is natah. The same word as it was in the beginning. She natah a vineyard, a Karem. She planted a Karem, a vineyard. And what kind of food you gonna get from the vineyard? Every herb yielding seed is gonna be for food. And plants with fruit, you're gonna have for food. So when she rising early, she bringing food. You mean plants and herbs, and plant and fruits for her household, from the garden, from the vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. Why? She gird up herself and she makes herself strong, her strength, and she get ready to go into her vineyard. How you say it? Her vineyard. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Why? Because her fruit is good, that she grows in her Karem, in her vineyard. The same way her father does. The son can do nothing what his father do. So whatever you see the son does, he said, the son does likewise. Same thing with the daughter. Whatsoever she see the father do, the daughter do the same thing. She do the same thing. And amazingly, Shaul said, I wish above all things, he said, that we all speak the same thing. And there be no division among us. You be perfectly joined together with the same mind and the same judgment. So you have a man in each who has a vineyard. You have a woman who has a vineyard. And you join them together as one, they have the same mindset. They have the garden mind, the gun mind. Planting and harvesting and crops. Not afraid to get dirty. She perceived that her merchandise is profitable, and her lamp, does not go out by night. Remember we talked about Yum Chmy'shy, or we talked about that man Daniel talked in the last time? His eyes were like, Ish Lapid, or Ayin, amazingly, Ayin Lapid Ish. His lamps were like burning torches. He said, man, I don't even go out by night. He said, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my pathway. Is not my word like fire? And amazingly, you take out the olive and the shin, where you got Ish and Ishah, you got fire right in the middle of that. Both male and female, when he created Adam, when he made him an Ishah. That was fit for him. Because a man with a garden mindset, naming animals and creatures, is going to need somebody with the same type mindset. Right? The word for pari is fruit. Because you know that word for fruit of her hands is pari, the produce of the ground, the fruit, offspring, children, fruit. The same thing with a woman. Ishah. She bear fruit. She has a vineyard, plants crops, bears fruit. Same thing when a woman bears a child, she bears fruit. Same thing. Same exact thing. The word for lamp is near. Near. Amazingly, right? Near. It means a lamp. To glisten, a lamp. That is a burner, a light, a candle lamp light. He said, you got 10 virgins. 5 are wise and 5 are foolish. 5 kept their lamps continually burning. You know why they kept it continually burning? Because they didn't forsake husbandry. And didn't forsake the commandments of Yahuwah, like Issachar said, in the last days, people are going to do. Because he said she rises early in the morning. Her lamp don't go out by night. He said, behold, at midnight there was a cry made. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. And those who had their lamps lit, they trimmed their lamps and went with the Mashiach, Yahushua. But those unwise, he said, open unto us. He said, Barak is he who finds so doing. right? It's not for lazy people, right? The word for it doesn't go out by night is layil, right? You say layil or layla, right? It means what? Night, because that's what happens. A twist, a night, figurative. So if a woman leaves off from her responsibilities as a servant in the garden, or I say a planting garden, rising early, providing things for her household, all these things, guess what happens? She will turn into darkness because her lamp going to go out. And you know what happens when she turns into darkness? As we spoke about in servant, she will turn into Delilah. She will become Delilah, the darkness. Literally. And she will do her husband evil and not good. She will do her children evil and not good. She will do all the maidens evil and not good. She will literally become Layla, darkness. Right? So this is a testament of Issachar, chapter 1. It says, for he called his sons and said to them, hearken, my children, to Issachar your father. Give ear to the words of him who is beloved of Yahuwah. Huh? Who is beloved? Remember we talked about last time? Who is beloved? He said, what makes your beloved more different than all the other beloved? He said, my beloved is ruddy, and you could spot him out of 10,000. I mean, he like Adam. But he said in the last days, men going to forsake husbandry. They're going to forsake farming. They ain't going to understand nothing that's being spoken. It's going to be hard to guide them to the place where they need to be. But it says right here, hearken to Issachar your father. Give ear to the words of him who is beloved of Yahuwah. I was born the fifth son of Yaakov. Right? That's what it says. It's the fifth son of Yaakov, right? Leah, right? And it says, by the way of the hire of for mandrakes. Huh? For mandrakes. For Reuben, my brother brought in mandrakes from the field. So in order to bring mandrakes from the field, you have to have food in the field. You got to have fruit in the field. I mean, you got to be a farmer. And Rechal met him and took them, huh? Guess what happens? The man brings in the crops. The woman takes the crops and prepares them. And Rehoboam wept, and his voice, and at his voice, Leah, my mother, came forward. Now these mandrakes were sweet-smelling apples, huh? They were apples. What are you eating? Which were produced in the land of Haran below a ravine of water. Below a ravine of water, meaning below a river. Because anything below, that means it's a high mountain with a river on it. And below that is a valley. But yeah, he said, what was in Shaluma's vineyard? He said, man, my sister, you like an apple tree. He said, you like an apple tree. When that grow? That grow in the summertime. Summer fruit. That grows in the summertime. Summer fruit. Wherever region one may be on the earth, it doesn't matter. Like you could be in the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere. Summer fruit. Right? There was no shipping and over freight forwarding in times past. Like when you start getting things from other places in different seasons, you had to experience the cold, you had to experience storing up, you had to experience not having the nutrients, because summer fruit only happened once a year. If it didn't have these things, and you would have to eat those fruits to get the nutrients to store up for yourself for winter, so you can have those nutrients inside of your body already before wintertime comes. For those 3 months where you're not going to have them. This is the first Enoch, chapter 6. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the Malachim and the angels, or the Malachim, the children of Shamaim, saw and lusted after them. And said one to another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Shemjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual implication, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. They were like, man, we're going to do it. When we see these women, these women, but they beautiful. We lusted after them. They lusting after them. Like, we finna do this thing. Verse 5 says, then swear they all together and bound themselves to mutual implication upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the Mount of Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves to a mutual implication upon it. And these are the names of their leaders: Shemazaz, Arikabah, Ramiel, Kobiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Azael, Amaros, Baratal, Anatel, Zekael, Zamapiel, Saratiel, Turel, Yum Jael, Shariel. These are the chiefs of tens. Right? Testament of Rehoboam 2:17. Flee therefore fornication, my children, and command your wives and your daughters that they adorn not their heads and their faces to deceive the mind. Because every woman who uses such wiles has been reserved for eternal punishment. For thus they allured the watchers. They were watching. I mean, that's what another word for abad is, servant. In the garden, to keep it and to shamar it. Abad is watch as well. They allured the watchers who were before the flood. For as they continually beheld them, they lusted after them, and they conceived the acts in their mind, for they changed themselves into the shape of men and appeared to them when they were with their husbands. When they were with their husbands. They were with their husbands. Committing adultery. But it says, and the women lusting in their mind, so they commit adultery in their mind. You know how Yahushua say, any man looks at a woman with lust in his eyes, committed adultery in his mind? But also the same for women. Both male and female. It says, and the woman lusting in their minds after their forms, how they look, gave birth to giants. For the watchers appeared to them as reaching unto Shamayim. They had a figure in the body that they wanted. They lusted after it. Not after their husband that was ruddy in the garden, whose locks smelled like the dew, who can be spotted out of 10,000, who had alabaster columns as a leg. Right, whose hair was black like a raven. This first Enoch, Aleph Canute 15:18, Pseudepigrapha Volume 1. But now the giants who are born from the union of these spirits and in the flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, because their dwelling shall be upon the earth and inside the earth. So on the earth, surface of the earth, and inside the earth. You want to go in the movie, they got movies called The Cave. They got movies called other things where we talk about beings that live inside the earth too. They live under the earth too. Right? You have the 7 earths. Some in the Mexican culture, they have the 9 centers of the dark regions of the underworld. Right? You have other beings that live inside of the earth. They are on the surface of the earth and under the earth. Evil spirits have come from their bodies. They come from their bodies. People are like, oh, you just committed adultery with somebody. You be thinking, oh, you're good. Or you just committed fornication. No, that person that you committed fornication with have evil spirits inside of them, and they come from their bodies and jump on you. They come from their bodies. They jump from body to body. They body jump. Guess what it says? Because from the day that they were created from Akudash ones, they became the watchers, and their first origin is a spiritual foundation. They will become evil upon the earth and shall be called evil spirits. When they get inside of people's bodies, they are demons. They are evil spirits. Their dwelling of the spiritual beings of the Shamayim is Shamayim, but their dwelling in the spirit, but the dwellings of the spirits of the earth. Right? So this is the Apocrypha, Susanna or Shoshana, chapter 1. He said, there dwelt a man in Babylon, Jehoiakim. And he took a wife whose name was Susanna, or Shoshana, daughter of Calicius, a very fair woman, and one who feared Yahuwah. So she feared Yahuwah. Her parents were righteous, and they taught their daughter. Her parents were righteous, and they taught her daughter. Their parents were righteous, and they taught her daughter according to the law of Mashah. Now Jehoiakim was a rich man, so he was very rich. And he had a fair garden. Because that was the commandment in Babylon. He said, plant vineyards, bear children. Man, build houses, plant vineyards, bear children. And they take their sons and they bear children, that you may multiply and not decrease. He said that he had a fair garden joining to the house. So he had a garden right to his house. So he had a vineyard, a vineyard. He had a gun. It was fenced. And to him resorted all the Yahudim because he was more honorable than others. He had a lot of money. The same year were appointed two of the ancients of the people to be judges. Right? Two men, two of the ancients, like the older people. Because that's what you look to. The wisdom is with the aged. Right? It's supposed to. Let days speak. That's what happens, right? It says two of the ancients would be judges, such as Yahuwah spake of. The wickedness came from Babylon. It says such as Yahuwah spake of. That wickedness came from Babylon, from ancient judges who seemed to govern the people. These kept much at Joachim's house, because he had a garden, he was rich, he had a house, he had a beautiful woman. They were like, man, we staying at your house every day. It says, and all that had any suits in law came unto them. So they all came to his house with his garden right next to it. And anybody who had any type of cases or suits, because they were judges, they would come to his house. Now when the people departed away at noon, because they did it from morning to midday. Shoshana went into her husband's garden to walk. Because it's good to go walk in your garden. That's why you need a garden at your house. Why? You go walk amongst the trees in the forest. It says, and the two elders saw her going in every day. So they were at his house. The two elders saw her going in every day and walking, and their lust was inflamed toward her. Isn't that what the watchers did? The watchers lusted at the women while they were with their husbands. Which means now the elders got evil spirits on the inside of their mind. The ones who are judging other people in their suits and cases, they got evil spirits. They lusting after another man's beautiful wife, his woman. And they keep coming, they looking at his house, lusting in their beauty, in their mind. And this all taking place, and guess where she at? She walking in the garden when it's happening. She walking in the garden, in the Gan, in the Karem, in the vineyard. It says, and guess what it says? And they perverted their own minds. That's what happens when you do it. You can't blame nobody else. You can't blame your husband. You can't blame your wife. You can't blame your pastor, your teacher, your nabi. You can't blame your mother and your father. You can't blame your son and your daughter. You can't blame the I just can't help myself. You did it yourself. You perverted your own mind. It says, and they turned away their eyes. Guess what it said? They perverted their own mind and turned away their eyes that they might not look unto Shamayim, which means they literally said, no, we ain't looking up to Shamayim no more. We on the earth. And we see they took them wives, all what they chose, and the evil spirits now inflaming their mind. Guess what it says? Nor remember just judgment. So they even perverted judgment because the woman was too beautiful for them to even resist. So they perverted judgment just so that they can continue to look at this woman. They were supposed to judge justly, but they were lying to themselves, and then guess what they do? They didn't even remember just judgment. So after they started perverting their own mind and became perverted in their thoughts by looking at another man's woman and lusting in their mind, they perverted judgment for other people. Their mind was not fixed to Shamayim, so they could not judge properly. He said, and howbeit they both were wounded in her love. They were wounded. How you say they were weak? How you say I'm sick with your love? They weren't sick with the love of Yahushua Mashiach in the bar. His word, Yahushua Mashiach, they was sick for her. Yet does not one of them show another his grief, right? So they were hiding it. It says, verse 11 says, for they were ashamed to declare their lust. They were. That they desired to have to do with her. Which means they were creating things in their mind. They were having love scenes in their thought process about her. 2 men. Verse 12 says, yet they watched diligently from day to day. Just like it said, watch. The watchers watched and lusted after their beauty. Matter of fact, they lusted after her. They lusted in their own mind while she was with her husband. To see her. They did it day after day. Day after day after day after day. They seen her come in. It was no holds bars, but it was like they couldn't contain themselves. They walking back and forth. They talking to her. They trying to figure out who she is. They trying to figure out. They want to give them their card. They say, call me. They want to take a photo of her. They couldn't help themselves. They were perverting judgment in their mind. They couldn't take it. It says, and the one said to the other, let us now go home, for it is dinner time. They were staying there all day till it was dinner time, till the sun went down in the garden. So when they were gone out, they departed the one from the other. And turning back again, they came to the same place. And after that, they had asked one another the cause. They acknowledged their lust, which means they made an agreement like Shemjaza in the 200. Then appointed they both a time. They appointed a time both together when they might find her alone. Because that's what happens. They want to get her alone when she by herself. That's what happens. Isha, and when you're alone, that's when he comes. That's when the evil spirits come. That's when Satan comes. When you're alone, he coming. Man, woman, child, he coming. He coming right then. He said, we're going to find her alone. It says, verse 15 says, and it fell out as they watched. A fit time, she went in as before with 2 maids only. And she was desirous to wash herself in the garden, for it was hot. Oh, so when it was hot. What time is this? Summertime. Summer fruit time. And look what the elders are bearing in their mind. Look what type of fruit they got. The judges. Look what type of fruit they got. It's summertime. Verse 16 says, and there was nobody there save the 2 elders. And they hid themselves and watched her. They were watching her. Just like the Shemjaza and the 200. They were watching the women. They saw them multiplying. They were beautiful. They said, man, let's take us wives. Let's take us wives. Because she was beautiful. But she ain't adorning her face to deceive them because she didn't even know they were looking. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. Verse 17 says, then she said to her maids, bring me oil and washing balls and shut the garden doors that I may wash. Why? Because we didn't wash in those showers. We washed in bio pools with the natural environment. We washed the outdoor shower, outdoor rain, outdoor waterfalls, and rivers and streams. We didn't wash like these people like today. We was in the natural alkaline water, the living water that flowed from the river. But it says what? It says, and they did as she bade them and shut the garden doors and went out themselves as the privy doors to fetch the things that she had commanded them. But they saw not the elders because they were hid. You ain't hid no more though, elders. You're not hidden anymore. And it says, now when the maids were gone forth, the 2 elders rose up and ran unto her, saying, behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us. Don't you know that Yahuwah is 10,000 times brighter than the sun? Don't you know that the moon, the sun is 7 times brighter than the moon? Don't you know Yahushua Mashiach is 7 times brighter than the sun, and Yahuwah is 10,000 times brighter than the sun? Beholding the ways of man, considering the most secret parts. He said, nobody sees us. It says, and we are alone and in love with thee. So they confessing her love, their love for her. Woman, you ever had that happen? Like you alone, and then some man you ain't married to just come up to you and confess his love to you? But their intent is not confess. Remember, she's with somebody. She's they know she's married. They know she's married. And it says, therefore consent unto us and lie with us. They literally saying have a threesome. Like how sick is your mind? Like you judging with the bar of Yahuwah. You judging with the bar, and now you want to have a threesome with a married woman. Like how sick is your mind? How sick are you? Even if you want to do it with even just one person, that's how sick are you? It says, verse 21 says, if thou wilt not, we will bear witness against thee. Which means they saying, if you don't do it, we're gonna give false witness against you. That a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maids from thee. Then Susanna sighed and said, I am straitened on every side. Now she got to make a decision. Just like you've had to make decisions in your life, choices. For if I do this thing, it is death unto me. This is how you have to work. You have to consider what you do. Because they said they're going to do false accusations. And according to the law of Moses, this woman's going to die regardless. She's going to die if she do it, and she's going to die if she don't. Because they're going to give false witness. But let's see what happens. It says, and if I do it not, I cannot escape your hands. It says, that's what he said. Verse 3 says, it is better for me to fall in the hands of Yahuwah. Isn't that what David said? My enemies are cruel. When he numbered the people, he said, I would rather fall into the hands of Yahuwah. It says, than to sin in the sight of Yahuwah. Guess what it said? It says, with that, Susanna cried with a loud voice. Because that's what happens. Because in the Torah, it said if a man come to rape you and she don't cry not, then she's guilty. Because you know why she knew this? Because her parents taught her. And she said, when Susanna cried out with a loud voice, and the two elders cried out against her. So she was crying out and they cried out. They were both trying. They were scared. Like she cried out, oh, she cried out. She's like, she thought when her thought process, you know what, I'm going to cry out against Abraham. But then he says, Susanna cried with a loud voice, and the two elders cried out against her. It says, then ran the one and opened the garden door. This all took place in the garden, just like Kuah in the garden. Satan came there in the garden, tried to get her to sin. Then he said, I'm going to bring false accusation against you, just like Kuah in the garden. But the difference between her and Kuah, she didn't give in. She didn't give in to them. It don't matter who you are. Man, woman, child, it don't matter. Verse 26, so when the servants of the house heard the cry in the garden, they heard the cry in the garden. Servants, do you hear the cries in the garden? He's like, when they heard the cry in the garden, they rushed in at the privy door to see what was done unto her. But verse 27, but when the elders had declared their matter, the servants were greatly ashamed, which means the elders got to them first. Because they respected the elders. They were older men. They were respected. They had the law. They were judges. You don't want to rebuke no elder, man. The elders say something, man, that's the truth. For there was no such report made of Susanna. Never was nothing actually reported about her. Just that one thing. Because she was innocent. Ain't nothing ever came out about this person. And it came to pass the next day when the people were assembled to her husband, Jehoiakim, the two elders came also full of mischievous imaginations against Susanna to put her to death, which means the demons still inflamed their mind. Yeah, the judges. And said before the people, send for Susanna, the daughter of Qahalath, Jehoiakim's wife. And so they sent. It says, so she came with her father and mother, her children, and all her kindred. Now Susanna was a very delicate woman and beauteous to behold. Like she wasn't ugly. Like it says, like Shurha Sharim says, I'm I'm dark, like the tents of Kedar, and I am comely, right? Like she wasn't ugly, a woman. But it says, and these wicked men commanded to uncover her face. Why? Because when you were beautiful back in the day, they would cover their faces. And I ain't talking about like cover your face. We talking about a veil. You ever seen the movies where they have like the prince, the malka, or they would call the queen behind the person, and they would have to show a veil of her face, and then she would uncover her face to show her beauty when she was questioned. Like these are all attributes, right? Because they were like a royalty type mindset. And it says, and these wicked men commanded to uncover her face, for she was covered that they might be filled with her beauty. They still want to see her, even though they want to put her to death, because that's what demons were made to do, to destroy. And they wanted to put her to death. Therefore, her friends and all that saw her wept. They wept. They cried. Verse 34 says, and then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people and laid their hands upon her head, because they were judges. And she weeping toward the Shamayim, for her heart trusted in Yahuwah. And the elder said, as we walked in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids and shut the garden doors and sent the maids away. Then a young man who was hid came unto her and lay with her. Then we that stood in a corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran unto them. And when we saw them together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we. And he opened the door, and he leaped out. But having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was. But she would not tell us. These things do we testify. So the two elders gave false accusation against Shoshana. But it says she trusted in Yahuwah. It says she trusted in Yahuwah. Then the assembly believed as those that were the elders and the judges of the people. So they condemned her to death because the elders and the teachers and the high priests and the Khan and all these people, they esteemed them to the clouds. Everything they say is true. They simple-minded. Everything they say is true. Verse 42 says, then Susanna cried out with a loud voice and said, O everlasting Yahuwah, that knoweth the secrets and knoweth all things before they be. Thou knowest that they have borne false witness against me, and behold, I must die. Whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me. And Yahuwah heard her voice. Matthew 27:27. Then the soldiers and the governors took Yahusha into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. And they stripped him and put on a scarlet robe on him. Then they take off her veil because they want to see her beauty. Matter of fact, they said the elders laid hands on her. And twisting a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and put a reed in his right hand, and kneeling before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, Malach the Yahudim. And they spit on him, and took a reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put on his own clothes on him and led him away to crucify him. She said, I gotta die. He said, you can see all things. And guess what? They're gonna put me to death. But you already know these things, you know how these things be. I mean, he said, Yahuwah heard her voice, right? Matthew 26:57. Then those who had seized Yahusha led him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. Where were they? They were the judges, and the elders were the judges in that time. And they gave false report against her. And Caiaphas was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of High Kahan. And going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Yahushua. And then what they did, the judges did, he said, if you don't do this thing with us, you don't do this threesome with us, you don't sleep with us, because we inflamed with your love, because we lusted and we perverted ourselves in our own mind, we don't even look at the Shamayim no more. What do you think these priests and these elders and these teachers now? They perverted their mind. They can't even look up the Shamayim no more. They can't even do it. Now the chief priests and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Yahushua, that they might put him to death, but they found none. Though many false witnesses came, that's what happened to Shoshana. Many false witnesses came. They came. At least 2 came forward and said, this man said, I am able to destroy the temple of Elohim and rebuild it in 3 days. That's what they did to Shoshana. They had 2 false witnesses against him. Because they needed something, some temporary pleasure. Continued on, book of Shoshana, verse 45. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death, in the way we just read, Yahuwah raised up the Kudash Ruach of a young youth whose name was Daniel, who cried with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman. Then all the people turned them toward him and said, What mean these words that thou hast spoken? So he, standing in the midst of them, said, Are you such fools, ye sons of Yasharal? Are you a fool, that without examination of the knowledge of the truth you have condemned a daughter of Yasharal? Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. Wherefore all the people turned again in haste, and the elders said unto him, Come, sit down among us, and show it us, seeing Elohim has given thee the honor of an elder. Because the elders supposed to be able to do this, right? Then said Daniel unto them, Put these 2 aside, one far from another, and I will examine them. So when they were put asunder one from the other, he called one of them and said unto them, O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sins which thou hast committed aforetime are come to light. Because nobody got away with anything. Executioners and evil work is not soon speedily executed. He said the sins you did aforetime, which means the sins that one has done, the behavior is still there. And therefore now, being that he's done these things as a judge and elder, when they do all these wicked and evil raw things, guess what happens? He said, they now come to light. Verse 53, For thou hast pronounced false judgment, and has condemned the innocent, and has let the guilty go free, because their mind was perverted from doing just judgment because of what they did. He said, you condemned the innocent and let the guilty go free. Albeit Yahuwah saith, the innocent and the righteous shall not slay. Thou shalt not slay. The innocent and the righteous thou shalt not slay. Let's see. Matthew 27:21 through 24. The governor said unto them, which 2 do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what shall I do with Yahushua, who is called Mashiach? They all said, Let him be crucified. You condemn the guilty, you condemn the innocent, and let the guilty go free. And they all said, Let him be crucified. And he said, Why? What evil have he done? But they shouted the more, and let him be crucified. So then Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather a riot was beginning. He took water and washed his hands before them crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. That's what Daniel said. I am innocent of this innocent woman, of the blood of this woman, Shoshana. I am innocent. He washed his hands. He said, you see to it. He said, all the people answered, his blood be upon us and on our children. His blood be upon us and on our children. Why? Because you forsake. When you forsake husbandry, when you forsake farming, when you forsake, you can't even look up the Shamayim no more, when you perverted in mind and judgment, guess what happens? You let the guilty go free. Then he released for them Barabbas. And having scourged Yahushua, they delivered him to be crucified. That's what they're saying they did to Shoshana. Because he trusted in Yahuwah, right? So this is 54. Now then, verse 54. Now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me, under what tree sawest thou them accompanying together? Who answered under, he says, who answered under a, he said, under a mastic tree. right? He said under a mastic tree. He's questioning both of them separately. Verse 55 says, and Daniel said, very well, because this continue on from the book of Shoshana. And Daniel, verse 55 said, and Daniel said, very well, thou hast lied against thine own head. For even now the Malach of Yahuwah hath received the sentence of Elohim to cut thee in two. He said he received the sentence to cut you in two. He already did. He said, I already got it to cut you in half, in two. Verse 56 says, so he put him aside and commanded to bring the other, and said unto him, O thou seed of Canaan, and not Yehuda, beauty hath deceived thee, and lust hath perverted thine heart. Lust has perverted thy heart and thy mind, to where they couldn't even look at the Shamayim and give just judgment. Because they let the guilty go free. They condemned the innocent and let the guilty go free, just like they did Yahusha. They took Barabbas, they let the guilty go free, and they killed Yahusha. They killed Susanna. Verse 57 says, thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Yasharal. That's what they've been doing for their whole time. They've been doing this to the daughters of Yasharal the whole time. He said, man, you are Canaan, not Yehuda. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Yasharal, and they, for fear, companied with you, because they gave in. Because this ain't their first offense. The elders been doing this the whole time. The whole time they've been doing this to the women of Yasharal, and they tried to do it to a woman of Yehuda, and it didn't work. But to the women of Yasharal, they've been doing this the whole time. They've been perverting their mind and sleeping with the women the whole time. But he said, "You not here no more, elders. You not here anymore." They've been doing this the whole time. But the daughters of Yehuda would not abide your wickedness. The daughters of Yehuda would not abide your wickedness. The daughters of Yehuda would not abide your wickedness. The daughters of Yasharal were accompanying him because they were fearing. They didn't trust in Yahuwah. They were fearing man and not Yahuwah. It's better to put your trust in Yahuwah than to put your confidence in man. Why? They tell you, if you don't do this thing, we're going to report and say you slept with somebody, a young man. And you'll be put to death. Verse 58 says, "Now therefore tell me, under what tree didst thou take them accompanying together?" So he asked the other elder, who answered, "Under a home tree." Keep that in mind. Then said Daniel unto him, "Well, thou hast also lied against thine own head, for the Malach of Yahuwah waiteth with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you." He said, "I want to destroy you." Isn't that what Balaam? He said, when he was beating the dung, he said, "I come out to withstand you. For had you kept going, I'm going to kill you." And kept her alive. I was going to kill the guilty, Balaam, and kept the innocent donkey alive. But the elders condemned the guilty. The elders accepted the guilty, but condemned the innocent. Even as they did Yahusha, they condemned Yahusha, the innocent, and condemned the guilty. Verse 60 says, "With that all the assembly cried out with a loud voice." Notice all these people crying out to praise Elohim, who saveth them that trust in him. He saw they both were lying because they had two different stories. And they arose against the two elders. They arose against the two elders. For Daniel had convinced them of false witness by their own mouth. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Man can't even do that. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Verse 62 says, "And according to the law of Moses, they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do their neighbor. And they put them to death. Thus the innocent blood was saved the same day." The innocent blood was saved the same day by putting the guilty to death. The innocent blood was saved the same day. Therefore, Qahalath and his wife praised Elohim for their daughter Susanna, with Jehoiakim her husband, and all the kindred, because there was no dishonesty found in her. From that day forth was Daniel had in great reputation in the sight of the people. All the same day. They put him to death and saved the innocent the same day. All at the same time. Right, you see how Yahushua was this innocent Susanna? But you also going to see this. The home tree, we look at home tree, it is an evergreen oak. He said, I saw on a home tree. The only reason I put home tree on here is an evergreen oak, a holly oak, a home oak. It's supposedly in the native in the Mediterranean. It is a member of the Eliac section of genus. It is with acorns that mature in a single summer. Where we at? We in the summer, right? So when did that take place in the garden? When trees, and how can you hide? You can't hide in the winter because the trees ain't got no leaves on it. It was all in the summertime. Summer fruit. It's all during the summertime, in the summer fruit. This is where it takes place at. Right? This is the home tree. You see how broad, that's how big your home tree is. That's a home oak. It's an oak tree. He said, man, we did it under the oak tree. Right? That's what they say, right? This is Deuteronomy 17:2. If there be found among you within any of your towns that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you, a man or a woman who does what is evil in the sight of Yahuwah your Elohim in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods, Elohim, and worshipped them, or the sun, or the moon, or any of the hosts of Shemaims, which I have forbidden, and if it is told you, and you hear of it, and ye shall inquire diligently. You know what Daniel did? He inquired diligently about the whole matter. He questioned both elders separately. He said the Ruach of Yahuwah came upon him when Shoshana cried out. And if it is true, and as such an abomination has been done in Yasharal, then you shall bring out of your gates that which man or woman who was done this evil thing, and ye shall stone the man or woman to death with stones. On the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, the one who is to die shall be put to death. And a person shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hand of the witness shall be the first against him to be put him to death. And afterward the hand of all the people, so shall you purge evil from your midst. The hand of the witnesses shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of the people, so you shall purge evil from your midst. When Yahushua Mashiach was taken by the High Kahan, the elders and the priests, and they were brought for judgment, their hands first were upon him. And then all the people's hands was upon them. Why? Upon Yahushua. Why? Because they brought up false witness against him. Because remember when Shoshana was killed or guilty, they all wept and realized she was going to be put to death by everybody. Because of the 2 elders, the leaders, and then the people joined in. And then they were seeking to kill Shoshana. And then the Ruach came upon Daniel and saved her. Because Yahuwah put it upon him. And then you have here, he said, man, when you have evil, somebody worshiping the sun, moon, and stars, he said everybody should be, he said the witnesses' hands should be upon him first. Then the people. That's what happened when they took Barabbas and they killed Yahushua. They said, we'll take Barabbas, crucify Yahushua. He said, what evil has he done? I wash my hand clean, just like Daniel did for Shoshana. And people don't even know why Yahushua had to die. Because the innocent was saved, the guilty was killed, and the innocent was saved the very same day. The guilty was killed, and the guilty was put to death, and the innocent was saved the same day. Dabarim, Deuteronomy 19:15. A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or for any wrong in connection with an offense that he has committed. Not one person can do that. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall the charge be established. You got so much evidence right here. In the bar, you got 8 witnesses against you. the word is your witness against you. The bar, whether one will confess it or not, it don't matter. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before Yahuwah. Both. Before the priests and the judges who are in the office in those days. He said they both got to appear before him. Why do you think they took Yahusha before the priests? Because that malicious witness rise and accuse a person of wrongdoing. He said, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before Yahuwah, before the priests and the judges who are in office that day. Why do you think they brought Yahusha before him? And the judges shall inquire diligently if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, which that's what they did to Yahusha. This is what should have happened. Then you shall do to him that he has meant to do his brother. How come they didn't take Yahusha after he was buried? They bore false witness against him. How come those two witnesses did not get put to death? Because the priests and the elders and the chief priests and all of the leaders' mind were perverted in their mind. And they were giving false judgments. When they condemned the just and let the guilty go free. Same thing with the elders. They were perverted with fornication. They perverted with malice. They perverted with slander. They perverted with hatred. They perverted with envy. They perverted with strife. They were perverted with conceiting. They were perverted with robberies. They were perverted with child sacrifices. They were perverted with the demonic mindsets. And guess what it says? So shall you purge evil from your midst, and the rest shall hear and fear and shall never again commit such evil among you. Why? They're going to hear about it and they're going to fear and they're going to do no more evil. Why do you think when you hear Yahushua Mashiach, when you hear about how he sacrificed his life and how even the false witnesses didn't even get put to death, when you hear and fear it, you will do evil no more in your life. You will do your husband evil no more. You will do your wife evil no more. You do your children evil no more. You do each other evil no more. Knowing that you were the two false witnesses, knowing that you were the two elders and the high priests and the leaders, knowing that you were the people joined together. And one witness the two witnesses jump on one person, and then all the people put him to death. Knowing that was you. You are the people who did that. He says, your eyes shall not pity. Why do you think Yahushua said, I looked for pity and I found none? He said, reproach it to them that reproach thee, it all fell on me. Why do you think it all fell on him? Because he was an innocent man. They brought false witness. He said, if it be a false witness against your brother, they should be put to death, but they didn't. Yahushua was put to death because the guilty were put to death and the innocent was saved the very same day. The innocent blood. And it says, it shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for foot, hand for hand, and foot for foot. Isn't that something, right? All at the same time, right? So this is Turah 25 and 21. Stumble not at the beauty of a woman and desire her not for pleasure. That's what the elders did. They stumbled at the beauty of a woman. And they desired her for pleasure. Why do you think they were looking at a woman with lust in their eyes? How you saying? Looking at a married woman, they were committing adultery in her own mind. Just like the watchers in Shemjaza. And then they said the women lusted at their beauty, but not Shoshana. But the women of Yasharal did. They acquainted themselves with them all the time. Sirach 9 and 8. Turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman. They didn't do that. It said, turn away thy eye from a beautiful woman and look not upon another's beauty. Why do you think when they stripped Yahusha, they looked at him? For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. Why do you think everybody was deceived when Yahusha came? He said, had they known it, they would not have crucified Yahushua Mashiach. They were deceived. They were looking on their father's nakedness, their mother's nakedness, their brother's nakedness, their sister's nakedness, their aunt's nakedness. They were uncovering their nakedness right in front of their face. Their next of kin, right in front of their face. Because it was a shame to be naked. Before Adam fell, they wasn't ashamed. But then after they got more information, then they were ashamed to go there naked because that thought process didn't exist. It says, for henceforth love is kindled like a fire. Oh, that's what happened. It inflamed them. They said, man, we in love with you. Remember they came to her? She was married. They came to her. I watched her every day. You better watch who you have around your house. You better watch who you let in. They could be the very demon, the shadim, how you saying? They be lusting after your woman, after your wife, looking to take your wife and throw you out. Looking to inflame your betrothed, looking at the table while she's serving food, looking at her body, looking for a final way to get in. Then they want to stay the night and have dinner with you just so they can look at her. You better watch you better watch out. Inflaming them. Yeshayahu 53:1 says, who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom is the arm of Yahuwah been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant. Why would he say that? Because they didn't forsake if you didn't forsake husbandry and farming, like Issachar said, he was a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. And he was made abad at forced labor in the field. A must. Because if you don't forsake husbandry, you shall know what a young plant look like. But he said in the last days, men going to forsake husbandry. They're going to forsake every herb-yielding seed. And for fruit, that's why fruit going to be for food. They're going to forsake it. And guess what it says? Like a root out of the dry ground, he had no form or majesty that we should look at him. Why? Because he said, turn away your eye from him, from a beautiful woman. And no beauty that we should desire him. He said, turn away that eye from a beautiful woman. That's what the elders did not do. But he said, and that's what we did not do to Yahushua. That's when they looked at him. They looked at his nakedness. They uncovered him right in front of all the people. But he said, like a root out of the dry ground. When you look at a root, if you ever went farming, if you did anything, you pull a root out, you see, look at the root, it's ugly. It looks ugly. It has no comeliness or form that you would even desire to eat the root. Or to even look at it. Why would you look at it? It don't even look good. But when you forsake husbandry, you forsook the garden, you forsook the vineyard, man, woman, male and female, then what happens? He said, we have no form or majesty that we should look at him or beauty with desire. And why would you look at a root and a plant? Because you hate farming. You hate the Karam. You hate the Karem. You hate the garden. You hate the plants. You hate the animals. That's why you eat them and you kill them. That's why you can't even eat plants. You can't eat the fruit. You hate these things. Why would you eat these things? Why would you even look at it? You hate it. Because you forsook it. You forsook husbandry. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And as one that men will hide their faces, he was despised. Why? Because the commandment is to turn away your eye from a beautiful woman. But not the elder. They uncovered her and they looked at her. Same thing all the people did. It says, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten of Yahuwah, and afflicted. He was pierced for our transgressions. Because the blood of the guilty was him. The guilty being put to death was him. Because it was our guilt. And the innocent blood was saved that very same day. All in the same day. It says, he was crushed for our iniquities. Keep that in mind. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us shalom. And by his wounds we are healed. We are healed by his wounds. We are healed by him getting beat down, getting destroyed, smacked, hit. Turn away the eye from a beautiful woman. Of course, you smack and beat and punch somebody, you ain't going to look at him no more. But before, his head was black like a raven. Man, out of 10,000, you could spot him out. My beloved, he said, man, you could spot him out of 10,000. Man, he had alabaster columns for legs. But when you start smacking and punching and hitting him, he said, man, turn away off from the beauty of a woman. They said they don't even want to look at him no more. He was despised, just like a root out of the dry ground, like a plant. Because they turned that beauty into shame. Because he bore our griefs and carried our sorrows. He the one was beat and was pierced for us. So the word for crushed is daka. Daka. It means to crush, to be contrite, to be broken, to be made, to crumble, to bruise. To bruise. It said, man, Yitzhakar was like a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold. Matter of fact, it has strong bones. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, she shall be called a Shah. But then you look in the book of Tahalim song, it says, man, look at my bones. They wore out. My bones stare at me. Why do you think they were looking at Yahushua on the stake, on the totality, on the cross? Why do you think they were looking at him when he had stripped them naked? They were inflamed with his love. Because they were supposed to turn away their eye from the beauty of a woman, from somebody's nakedness, but they didn't. They said he had no form of countenance that you wouldn't even desire him, because she had beauty. Because he had beauty, but they couldn't see his beauty. But then he had a lot of sin, which made him to be despised. How you say? So you look at this bowl of seeds. These are spinach seeds. It said he would bruise for our iniquity, he would crush for our iniquities. In order to get the seed out of a spinach seed, you got to take your 2 fingers and you have to crush it with your 2 fingers. You have to crush it. Why? This is for people who haven't forsaken farming, who haven't forsaken yielding, or you say, most Malay Rabbah, or the male and female playing vineyards. You crush the actual seed in order to get the outer shell off, to get the actual seed out of it. In order to get the seed to plant, you have to crush it with your 2 fingers in order to get it. When they say he would bruise for our iniquity, he would crush for our iniquity, you got to literally crush the seed in order to get it. At the seed out of the midst of the outer shell to plant. So this is Tahalim 51:6, 51:16. For you will not delight in sacrifices, or I will give it. You will be not pleased with burnt offerings and sacrifices. He says actually, for you will not delight in sacrifices, or I will give it. Would give it. You will not be pleased with burnt offerings. The sacrifice of Yahuwah are a broken spirit. Daka. How you saying? We talking about Daka. He was crushed for our iniquities. A broken and a contrite heart. O Yahuwah, you will not despise. He was bruised for our iniquities. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastisement that brought us shalom was put on him. He was that innocent. He was brought up 2 false witnesses against him. And those 2 false witnesses should have been put to death. They should have. All those people who came came on him, 1 witness came, 2 witnesses came, and then all the people joined in, from the elders and the teachers and the people. They all should have been put to death. He said, everything you thought to do to him, it should be done to you. But guess what? It didn't happen. Because he bore our sin. He bore all the reproach. Yochanan 19:12. For then Pilate sought to release him. But the Yahudim cried out, if you release the man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar. So then Pilate heard these words. He brought Yahushua out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the stone pavement, in Aramaic Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of Pesach, and it was the 6th hour. He said to the Yahudim, behold your king. Behold your Malak. They cried out, away with him. Away with him. Crucify him. Pilate said to them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. So he delivered him over to them to be crucified. Isn't that what they did to Shoshana? They cried out against her, the 2 elders, and they delivered her over to be crucified. And she cried to Yahuwah, Yahuwah, you know everything before they happen. You see the false judgment and witnesses that they do against me. And she said, help me. And the Ruach came upon Daniel. And he said, the Malak of Yahuwah has already given command to cut you into, both of you. Both of you. Because he asked him the same question. And he repeated it again. He said, the Malak of Yahuwah has given me the command. I don't care what tree you were under. He's already given me a commandment to cut you in 2. This is Allah Shemuel 8:7-9. And Yahuwah said to Shemuel, obey the voice of the people in all that they say to you. And all that I say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them. Why do you think they rejected Yahushua? Why do you think they rejected? He said, man, you're like a man who hide their faces from. He said, turn away your eye from the beauty of a woman. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. But they have rejected me from being king of them, according to all the deeds that they have done. For the day that I brought them out of the Mizraim, even to this day, forsaking me and serving other Elohim, other gods, so they also doing to you. They doing it to you. They forsook me and they doing it to you. Why do you think they forsook Yahuwah and they doing it to Yahushua Mashiach, his son? They doing the same thing. They rejected me, Yahuwah. You reject the son. You reject the father, you reject the son. You dishonor the father, you dishonor the son. You dishonor the son, you dishonor the father. He said they doing it to you too. Yahushua Mashiach. Now then, he said, now then, obey their voice. Only you shall solemnly warn them. Today is the day of warning, right? And show them the ways of the king who shall reign over them. Let's see. Out of Shemuel 8:10 through 18. So Shemuel told all the words of Yahuwah to the people who were asking for a king from him. And he said, these will be the ways of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them to his chariots. You see that today with some teachers and leaders today and people out here in the world. But guess what? This is also what Yahushua going to do. These are the ways of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them to his chariots and to be his horsemen and to run before his chariots. Isn't that what some people do today? These imposters to do. He said, man, you don't serve other Elohim. Let me show you the ways of your king. And he will appoint for himself commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s and some to plow the ground and to reap his harvest. To reap his harvest. That these imposters do today. And to make his implements of war and the equipment of his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take your daughters to be he will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive orchards and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain and your vineyards, and give them to his officers and to his servants. Isn't that what people do today? He said, let me show you what this king gonna do. It says, he will take your male servants and your female servants and the best of your young men and your donkeys, and put them to his work. Oh, you mean forced labor? You mean like he said, the car is a strong donkey in the middle of the field, in the middle of the sheepfold. He was made a servant, a bard, and made a mas at forced labor. Forced labor. He will take the tenth of your flocks, and ye shall be his slaves. That word for slaves is abad. You shall be his abad. He said, you shall be his abad. Amazingly, when you look at all these attributes of the vineyard, both male and female, you see all these attributes in the garden. With Adam, he planted Adam in the garden, both male and female, right? And he said he's going to take the best of your young men and your flock, your donkeys, and put to his work, and he will take a tenth of your flocks, and ye shall be his abad. Why? Because they forsook Yahuwah to be their king, because they didn't want to do it for Yahuwah no more. They want to do it for men. So being that you want to do it for men and not Yahuwah, this is going to be the way of your king. But if you want to do it for Yahuwah, it's a difference. It's a difference when you want to do it for Yahuwah. But being that they forsook farming and all these things, they didn't want to do it for Yahuwah no more. He said, you know what? I'm going to make you do it for other people. But it says, and in that day, you will cry out because of your malak. That's why they said, what? We have no king but Caesar. We have no king but Caesar. Away with him. Crucify him. You're going to cry out because of your Malak, whom you have chosen for yourselves. You chose that king. You chose that Malak. You chose that shepherd. You chose that pastor. You chose that Ra'ah. You chose that person. So therefore, you serve men. You serve men. You serve them. That's what you chose. That's what you chose, right? But he got what he said. But Yahuwah will not answer you in that day. He said, you're going to cry because you're king, but Yahuwah will not answer you in that day. Matthew 27:11. Now Yahusha stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, are you the king of the Malak of the Yahudim? Yahusha said, you have said so. But when he was accused of the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Shoshana. Susanna, I mean. He said, you're going to cry out against your king, and he ain't going to give you no answer in that day. You mean the Malak that they rejected? Well, this is the Malak right here. They want to be slaves to men, but guess what? It says, then Pilate said to them, do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he gave no answer, not even to a single charge. So the governor was greatly amazed. Matthew 27:38. Then the two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads, saying, you who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the son of Elohim, come down from the totality, and we will believe him. He trusts in Yahuwah. Isn't that what Shoshana says? She trusts in Yahuwah. I trust. She trusted in Yahuwah. He trusts in Yahuwah. Let him deliver him now if he will desire him. And who delivered Shoshana? Yahuwah delivered Shoshana by making the Ruach come upon Daniel to condemn the two witnesses, the false witnesses that should be put to death. Because if those two, being that those elders were put to death because they were false witnesses and they were found guilty, and their death penalty was to be put to death. But the death penalty that was given to Yahusha, you can see those two witnesses did not get put to death. Because Yahusha had a bigger purpose. He said, let him deliver him. For he said, I am the son of Yahuwah. And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled in the same way. They did the same thing to him. They reviled the same way. They all joined together against him. Matthew 27:45-50. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, Aliyah, Aliyah, lama sabachthani, that is, Ma Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? And some of the bystanders hearing it said, this man is calling for Eliyahu. And one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on reed on it and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, wait, let's see whether Eliyahu will come and save them. And when Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, he gave up the Ruach. He cried out again with a loud voice and gave up the Ruach. And what happened? How many times did Daniel go to the two elders? Twice. He questioned them twice. He said, the Malach of Yahuwah has sent me to destroy you twice. To both elders, and they were put to death. When they came to get Shoshana out of the garden, when she cried out first, and then the elders cried out again. Twice. The elders cried out again. And he said, the Malach of Yahuwah gave me the commandment to cut you in two. The reproaches have broken my heart. The reproaches of them that reproached thee in Tehillim 69 have fell on him. The elders, the false witnesses, and all the blood of the people, and all those who were going to condemn somebody to death for the things that they were doing. He said, man, you have a malicious witness who worship the sun, moon, and the stars and do all these things. He said, man, all the people should be put him to death. And guess what they did? They brought him before the elders and the priests, and they put him to death. They put Yahushua to death. They put him to death. Just like they brought him many false witnesses and put him to death. And then the false witnesses were guilty, but they still put Yahushua to death. They condemned the guilty. They condemned the innocent and let the guilty go free. Barabbas. all at the same time. But in that same time, you saw the innocent. He cried out once for the guilty, and he cried out another for the guilty and the innocent were all saved that same day. The guilty was put to death, and the innocent was saved the same day. We were saved the same day. We were all saved the same day. We were made innocent from his guilt. By him being guilty, we were made innocent. All in the same day. In the same day. Galatians 1:10, for I am not seeking approval of man. Why? Because you ain't doing no garden work for no man. Because if you forsake Yahuwah, and it's been Yahusha, and you forsake the garden, both male and female, he said, you haven't rejected me. They haven't rejected you. They rejected me from being Malak over them. Then he said, this is going to be the ways of your king. But even those same attributes that you see with the king that they rejected also was the same attributes for the people who serve Yahusha today. Who is the greatest among you? The one who sit at the table or the one who serves? He said, the one that sit at the table. So shall it be among you. The leader, he said, the greatest among you shall be the youngest, and the leader is one who serves. Oh, you mean abad, a servant. He said, I do not seek approval of man, or, he says, for I am not seeking the approval of man, or of Yahuwah. Or of Yahuwah? He says, for am I seeking the approval of man, or of Yahuwah? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Mashiach. I would not be an abad of Mashiach if I was trying to please man. If I was doing this to be a servant to man, how you say? So you can give all your stuff to attend to a human and do all these things and give how you say? To do all these things that people do in the world. He said, no, you're doing it for Mashiach Yahusha. He said, your mindset has shifted. Your mindset has shifted. Because you used to do it for other reasons. But now he's saying that being that one has returned to Yahusha Mashiach, returned to Yahuwah, you're doing it for another reason. He said, man, I'm going to take your best of your young men, and I'm going to take both male and female, and I'm going to put them to work and be servants. He said, you're going to be one. Yahusha even said they're going to be two grinding at the mill, one taking the other left, two in the field, one taking the other left. He said, I'm gonna make them cooks. I'm gonna make them perfumers. I'm gonna make them do all these things. Amazingly, when Yahushua was crucified, what did he do? They decked his body with myrrh, aloes, and wrapped him in linen. The women did. He said, I'm gonna take all of them, and I'm gonna make them my servants. But he said, you're gonna cry against your king. And he ain't gonna answer you not a word. And he didn't. Yirmiyahu 28:4. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim Yashra to all the exiles who have sent into exile Jerusalem to Babylon. Why? Because they forsook husbandry. They forsook farming, and they forsook the commandments of Yahuwah, and then they had malice in it. They intent to do evil. He said, build houses. Why? Because this is what Yahuwah did. You saw Jehoiakim do it with Shoshana. Jehoiakim did with Shoshana or Susanna. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters, and multiply there and do not decrease. This is what he commanded to those in the garden. Yochanan 15:1. I am the true vine. My Father is the farmer, or the vine dresser, the husbandman. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And he said, what do you mean? The fruit of the Ruach is what? Kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, and munah, forgiveness, mercy, brotherly kindness, sisterly kindness, virtue. He said, these things being you and abound, you shall neither be barren or unfruitful in the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach. Barren. So you look at barren, a woman being barren is the same as a man, a human, a man, woman, child, or somebody being barren without the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach, you barren. You ain't producing fruit in your tree. It says every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you have been clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. And as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abide in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. You got to abide inside of Yahushua Mashiach. Every person that immersed in Yahushua Mashiach have been immersed into his body. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. You can't do nothing without being connected to the vine. He's me in your umbilical cord. As we talked about, trust in Yahuwah. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. He will make straight your paths. It will be refreshment to your bones. Healing to your umbilical cord. Healing to your shore and refreshment to your bones. It make your bones strong. Like that strong donkey, Yitzhakar, in the middle of the sheepfold. Right in the middle of the sheepfold. He would have made a bod, a servant, who bore a burden. Isn't that what Yahushua did for you? He was Yitzhakar. He was a strong donkey in the middle of the sheepfold, who was made a servant, and he was forced to bear it. How you say? But he willingly laid out his life. He wasn't forced. But he bore the burden of the sheep. And it says, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch that withers. You can't do that unless you forsake husbandry. You don't understand nothing he's talking about. If you ain't like Yitzhakar, man, you forsook husbandry. You don't know what he's talking about. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch that withers, and the branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned. People saying, you need to experience all seasons. Yes, you do. You need to experience all seasons because Yitzhakar understood the times. He understood the Aydah. He understood the times and the seasons. You know when the winter is. You know when summer is. If you can't understand and perceive these things, you don't know what he's talking about. You ever did it? Summer, how you say, spring, summer, fall, winter is a part of your life. It should be. You should see the leaves wither and fall. You should see how you got to store up your nutrients in your body. Put the bar to bear the utterance in your mind and store it up for the winter time. You should see how you need to eat the summer fruits naturally so you can store up the nutrients in your body so you can sustain yourself through the winter. You need to know these things. You need to be in these type of situations where you got to eat it in haste. You need to be in these situations where you got to eat the fruit in haste. Why? Because if you don't, you're going to neglect it. You're going to forsake farming. It says, and you'll forget all your celestial wisdom and your higher consciousness. And how to discern between good and evil, between good fruit, bad fruit. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. That's what Father do for his children who are in the garden with the same mindset. Just like the who can find an excellent wife. Just like Solomon, Shalom planted a vineyard. Just like Nuach planted a vineyard. Just like Yahuwah planted a vineyard for Adam and put both male and female inside. Why? Because that's what he's going to do. I'm going to do everything for my child who does what I say. Because I consider his thoughts. My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. Even as the highest Shamayim to the earth, so are my ways from your ways. Until one gets the garden mindset, I used to return back to the mind. The fruitful vine, the fruitful branches, the fruitful mind, the fruitful life. What happens? Then Yahuwah can't consider your thoughts. In order to eat from the tree of life, the Aydahchay, or Aydahchay, you have to go back to the garden. But if you don't like these type of things to eat, what makes you think you're going to partake of it? Right? Yahushua Mashiach, right? Proverbs 3, Mashali 3:19. Yah by wisdom founded the earth, and by understanding he established the Shamaim. By his knowledge the deeps broke open, and the clouds dropped down the dew. My son and daughter, right, male and female, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and they will be life to your soul and adornment to your neck. Don't lose sight of this, the bar, from the beginning, because he made everything. You have no need to go after another God, another Elohim. It says, then you will walk in your way securely. You're going to walk. Your foot will not stumble. You will lie down, and you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Man, you're gonna be sweet. But you're gonna be like that. You're gonna be like Issachar. Man, what did he do? Man, he laid down in the middle of the sheepfold. He was made a servant. But it's gonna be a willingly. It's gonna be willingly. He said, if you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden terror and the ruin of the wicked. When it comes, for Yah will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. He's going to be your confidence. Who your confidence in? That's why Shoshana said, you know what? If I do this thing, then I'm going to die. If I don't do this thing, I'm going to be in their hands. And they're going to do something to me, evil. I'm just going to fall into the hands of Yahuwah. And when it comes, he said, for Yah will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. And he raised up the Ruach HaKodesh inside of Daniel and kept her foot from being caught and put to death. But not Yahusha, though. He trusted in Yahuwah. Let him deliver him now if he have him. But they didn't know on the third day he was going to get up from the grave. That's what his trust was at. He said, he ain't going to leave my soul in Sheol. He said, I waited for Yahuwah more than they that waited for the morning. He said, when Yahusha went to sleep, his sleep was sweet. And Yahuwah was his confidence to get him right back up on the third day. He said, man, turn away your eye from the beauty of a woman. Because they thought they had him. They thought they killed him. He said, turn away your eye from the beautiful woman, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. They were deceived. They didn't know that Yahushua Mashiach was going to do that. He said, I waited for Yahuwah more than they that wait for the sun to rise. This is Hanuk 82:1, Enoch 82:1. Barak are the righteous. Barak are those who walk in the way of righteousness and sin not as the sinners. In the reckoning of all their years, all their days is which it says in which the sun transverses the Shamaim, entering into the departing from the portals for 30 days, with its heads of 1,000 of orders of the stars, together with the four which are intercalated with the divide of the four portions of the year, because it's 4 seasons: summer, spring, summer, fall, winter, which lead them and enter with them 4 days, because you got 4 transition times. After 30 days, you add a day. It says, only to them men shall be at fault, not reckoning them in the whole reckoning of a year. Yea, men shall be at fault, not recognizing them accurately, for they belong to the reckoning of a year, and are truly recorded thereon forever. One, it says, one in the first portal, one in the third portal, one in the fourth, and one in the sixth. And the year is completed in 364 days. And the account thereof is accurate, and the recording and reckoning thereof is exact, because the Issachar know the actual time. And the luminaries, and the months, and the festivals, and the years, and the days, and Uriel showed and revealed it to me, to whom the master Adon of the whole creation of the world has subjected the host of Shamaim, and he has power over night and day, in the Shamaim to cause light to give to the light to men, the Shemesh, moon, and stars, and all the powers of the Shamaims which revolve in their circular chariots, spherical chariots. And these are the orders of the stars, which set in their places, and in their seasons, and in their festivals and their months. Because Issachar like a strong donkey, a kamor, in the middle of the sheepfold. He said they understood the times, the appointed times, the seasons. He said what Yasharal ought to do, what they should do. Repent, for the Malkuth of Yahuwah is at hand. So you look at a black hole, like when we look at the cosmos, you look at a black hole, they talk about singularity, right? You look at balance between, they call it the event horizons, right? You look at as above, so below. Right? Look at the event horizons. Once you pass the event horizons, once one passes that, there's nothing in, right? And you get to the singularity. That is the balance, or you say the point of no return, right? Once you get there, then you understand. People say what a black hole is. He said they say a black hole. Black hole sucks light. But when you look at the actual balance between human nature and the center of one's body and one's mind, right? You look at it says nothing in and nothing out, right? Because once one reaches the balanced state, once one reaches that balanced state of singularity, then you decide what goes in and what goes out. What goes in and what goes out. You decide. Yahushua said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man open, I will come in to him. And I will eat with him. And I will be in him. Matter of fact, I'll be with him. Even unto the end of the world. The end of his life. Right? But you have to reach that state. And when we start looking at how the world operates, they always they funnel you into a black hole. They funnel you in. And then they expel you out on the outside continually. And you don't even have no control. But until one gets control, then you decide. What goes in and what goes out. And you won't be traveling through black holes that they lay out for you to travel through. Right? So this is Tahalim Psalms 107:31. Let them that thank Yahuwah for his steadfast love, for his wondrous works to the children of Adam. Let them extol him in the Aydah of the people, and praise him in the Aydah of the elders. Because that's what they're supposed to do. But you see how Shoshana. What happened? Guess what it says? He turns rivers into a desert, springs of water into thirsty ground, a fruitful land into a salty waste. So if you ain't bearing fruit, just understand that he did it because of the evil of its inhabitants. So if Yahuwah will hold rain, because how you going to get your wasteland turned to salty? Ain't no water. How you going to get a desert? Because ain't no water. He said, if I withhold rain and dew because of your deeds, will you not entreat him? As you read in the first slide. Guess what he said? And guess what it says? And there, guess what he says? He turns a desert into pools of water. Right? A parched land into springs of water. Why? Because wisdom dropped down like water, giving bread to the eater and seed to the sower. And there he lets the hungry dwell. And they establish a city to live in. They sow fields and plant vineyards and get a fruitful yield. He do all of that. He created the rich and the poor. Fruitful, unfruitful. By his Barak, they multiply greatly. Be fruitful and multiply. Barak Maleh. And he does not let their livestock diminish. He don't let it diminish. Man, you be like Issachar in the middle of a sheepfold. Man, you don't let none of your livestock diminish. Why? When they are diminished and brought low through oppression and evil, that's the only reason. Oppression, evil, and sorrow. He was a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. He was a man like you hear his face from. He said he was brought low. He pours contempt on the princes and makes them wander in trackless wastes. But he raises up the needy out of his affliction and makes their families like flocks. The upright see it and are glad. Why do you think Yahushua rose on the third day? He raised up the needy out of his affliction. He said, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man have nowhere to lay his head. And it says, the upright see it and are glad, and all the wickedness shuts its mouth. He said, the upright see it and are glad, and all the wicked shuts its mouth. Whoever is wise, let him attend to these things. Let them consider the steadfast love of Yahuwah. He said, whoever wise. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. This is Aleph Yukanan 1:224. Let what you've heard in the beginning abide in you. Just like we spoke about many times. When you look at all the attributes of the garden, the Karem, planting a vineyard, planting, Satul, harvesting and planting. If you are not excited about these, how you said, it's not for the people who don't want to be a servant. But it's for those who are willingly able to do it. So let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. If what you've heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son, the Ab, and in the Father. You abide in his vineyard. You abide in his vineyard. You see you see the pattern of Natah, the planting of a vineyard. You start seeing both male and female. Both male and female. Adam, Zakar Nakabah, Kayil, virtuous, who can find an excellent wife? Shaluma, Nuach. They planted vineyards, and they tended to the vineyards. He said, man, you see these things, these attributes in every single aspect of your life. Every single movement of your life. He said, let what you've heard from the beginning abide in you. If what you've heard from the beginning abides in you, inside of you, then you too will abide in the ben, the life of the house, and the ab, the strength of the house. Because whatsoever the Son do, whatsoever the Father do, the Son does likewise. And whatsoever the Son does, the Son does likewise. So whatsoever the Father, he see the Father do, he do the same thing. He said he do the same thing. And this is the promise, the bar. You mean 8, because the bar equals to 8. The Karem, the garden, and the vineyard. This is the promise. To return back to the garden, to the gun, to work in his vineyard, to work it and keep it, to be a servant and to observe Shamar, Talmid, continually. And this is the promise that he has made to us, eternal life, because the guilty was put to death and the innocent was saved the same day. This is the promise to us, eternal life. Right? Because Barak are the meek. Right? For they shall inherit the Arats. They shall inherit the earth. Tabal, the inhabited world. They shall inherit the world. And they're going to do it in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, samuna, forgiveness, compassion, workers in the vineyard, workers in the gun, servants, servitude, humbleness. He said, for this man would I look, to this woman would I look, of a humble and contrite heart who trembles at my debar, my vineyard, my gun, who trembles at their mother and father, Yahuwah, who trembles. So as we move forward in kindness, compassion, and gentleness. We also move forward in truth. In truth.